It's time to conclude the emotional journey. In this final chapter, we'll see how Naruto's support helps Ino overcome her past trauma and find peace. How will this story end? Let's find out. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the third and final part of our What If series where Naruto saves Ino from her abusive father. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I highly recommend checking them out first. The links are in the description. Trust me, you don't want to miss the full story. We're almost at 100 subscribers, and I'd be so grateful for your help in reaching that milestone. If you're enjoying these What If stories, hit that subscribe button and let's get there together. Once again, this amazing story is written by Muhamad Thabt. For all the details, check out the description and pinned comment below. Thank you so much for being part of this series. If you've enjoyed the journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this in the future. Now, let's dive into the final chapter of Naruto and Ino's story. The sun had just begun to set on another successful mission. The intensity and adrenaline from the last few days had finally ebbed away, leaving Naruto and Ino to bask in the calm of a well-deserved victory. As the night grew quieter, Naruto sat beside Ino on the couch, looking relaxed, his signature smile on his face. The air between them was warm and comfortable, the kind of silence shared by those who had been through a lot together. As they sat in Naruto's house, basking in the glow of the night, Naruto turned toward Ino, his blue eyes twinkling with excitement. "Ino-chan, guess what?" Naruto said, unable to keep the grin off his face. "They gave me a huge reward for the mission and a 2-day vacation. Tomorrow, we can have some fun for a change. I thought, maybe we could go to the beach." Ino blinked in surprise. The beach? She'd never been to the beach before. In fact, the only thing she knew about the beach was that women often wore swimsuits, which to her were practically like underwear. The thought of being in such attire in front of Naruto made her blush a deep red. "The beach?" Ino stammered, trying to hide her nervousness. I've never been to one before." Naruto's grin widened. "Really? Well, that settles it. We'll go tomorrow, and I promise you'll have fun. It'll be a great way to relax. We've earned it." Ino felt a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbling up inside her. She couldn't deny that she wanted to spend time with Naruto, but the idea of being in a swimsuit around him made her heart race. She smiled, nodding softly. "Okay, Naruto-kun, I'll go." Naruto's face lit up, thrilled at the thought of spending the day with her. "Great. Don't worry, Ino-chan. We'll enjoy it." As the evening settled in, Naruto and Ino prepared to head to bed. Ino, still feeling a bit shy about the upcoming beach trip, stood in front of the mirror in the guest room, smoothing down her nightgown. Her mind wandered back to Sakura's teasing words earlier that day, suggesting she get closer to Naruto. "Bury his head in your chest," Sakura had said with a mischievous grin. "Maybe he'll fall for you faster that way." Ino blushed at the thought, wondering if Naruto even saw her in that way. Still, something about his kindness, his unwavering strength, and the way he always made her feel safe made her heart flutter. Maybe, just maybe, she could take a small step tonight. A shy request. Naruto, on the other hand, had already settled into his bed, lying on his back, staring up at the ceiling. His thoughts were a jumble of the mission, his team, and, most of all, Ino. He admired her strength, her beauty, and the way she'd grown so much during their time together. He hadn't realized just how important she had become to him. Just as Naruto was beginning to doze off, there was a soft knock at his door. He sat up, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. "Ino-chan?" The door creaked open slowly, and Ino stepped into the room. Her cheeks flushed pink, wearing her soft, flowing nightgown. The moonlight streaming through the window highlighted her figure, making Naruto's breath catch in his throat. She looked beautiful, but the shyness in her expression made him blush too. "Naruto-kun," Ino began, her voice soft, almost hesitant. I couldn't sleep." Naruto tilted his head, blinking as he scooted up on his bed. "Oh, is something wrong?" Ino looked down at her hands, feeling a bit silly for what she was about to ask. I was wondering if I could maybe sleep here with you? Just tonight?" Naruto's face flushed bright red, his heart hammering in his chest. He wasn't expecting that. He rubbed the back of his neck, trying to find his voice. Sure, Ino-chan," he stammered, shifting over to make room for her. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, I don't mind. Ino's blush deepened as she walked toward the bed, feeling her pulse quicken with every step. She had to admit, the idea of sleeping beside Naruto made her heart race with excitement and nervousness. "Thank you," Ino said shyly, crawling onto the bed. She hesitated for a moment before gently pulling Naruto's head toward her chest, exactly like Sakura had playfully advised. I want to hold you like this. Is that okay?" Naruto's face burned with embarrassment. His mind raced, but he found himself nodding, unable to speak. Ino's embrace was warm, soft, and comforting. As she held him close, he could feel the steady beat of her heart. It was calming, even though he felt like he was going to pass out from the situation. Ino, too, felt her entire body flush with heat. Holding Naruto like this was both exhilarating and terrifying, but it also made her feel safe, connected to him in a way she hadn't felt with anyone else. "Sleep well, Naruto-kun," Ino whispered, her voice soft and soothing. Naruto, his face still buried in her chest, nodded, though his heart was racing. He was too shy to speak, but as exhaustion from the mission began to take over, he slowly drifted off to sleep, the warmth of Ino's embrace lulling him into a deep slumber. A new morning. When Naruto woke the next morning, the sunlight was streaming through the window, filling the room with a soft, golden glow. He blinked, feeling a weight on his chest, and realized that Ino was still holding him, her arms wrapped around him, her breath soft and steady as she slept. Naruto's face turned crimson as he realized the delicate situation he was in. Not only was he lying in Ino's arms, but his hand had somehow ended up resting on her waist. He froze, his mind racing. He didn't want to move and wake her up, but at the same time, he wasn't sure how to handle the embarrassment he was feeling. Just then, Ino stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She blinked a few times, still groggy from sleep, before realizing where she was and how close Naruto was. Her face flushed red in an instant, and she sat up quickly, pulling away from him. "Oh my gosh. I am so sorry, Naruto-kun. I didn't mean to. Naruto quickly sat up as well, waving his hands in front of him. No. It's okay, Ino-chan. Really? I didn't mind." Both of them sat there for a moment, their faces bright red, the awkwardness hanging in the air. But slowly, a small smile crept onto Ino's face, and she let out a soft laugh. "Well, that was definitely something," Ino said, her voice shy but teasing. Naruto chuckled too, rubbing the back of his neck. "Yeah, I guess it was." They sat there for a moment longer, both of them smiling, the tension slowly fading away as they realized how comfortable they actually felt around each other. Off to the beach. Later that morning, Naruto and Ino packed a small bag for their trip to the beach. Ino had picked out a swimsuit, one that made her blush furiously just thinking about wearing it. But Naruto reassured her that they were going to have fun, and she didn't need to worry about anything. As they drove to the beach, Ino found herself glancing over at Naruto, watching him as he focused on the road. His blonde hair was glowing in the sunlight, and he had a look of quiet determination on his face, as if he was always prepared for whatever came next. It made her heart flutter. Naruto, on the other hand, was thinking about how lucky he felt to have Ino with him. The past few weeks had shown him just how much he cared about her, how much he wanted her to be a part of his life. When they finally arrived at the beach, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore greeted them. The air was warm, the breeze carrying the scent of salt water. It was perfect. Ino looked out at the ocean, her eyes wide with wonder. "Wow, it's beautiful." Naruto smiled, standing beside her. "Yeah, it is. I thought you'd like it." They set up a small spot on the sand with towels and an umbrella. Ino, still shy about her swimsuit, excused herself to change in the nearby beach house. When she returned, Naruto couldn't help but stare for a moment. Ino looked breathtaking. She wore a simple swimsuit, but the way she carried herself, with her long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, made Naruto's heart skip a beat. "You look great." The morning sun shone brightly overhead, casting its golden rays across the shimmering waves that lapped gently at the shoreline. The sound of the ocean was rhythmic and calming, filling the air with a peaceful ambience. Naruto and Ino had finally arrived at the beach, their bags slung over their shoulders as they made their way across the warm sand. It was the perfect day for some much-needed relaxation. Naruto glanced over at Ino, noticing the nervous smile playing on her lips as she took in the wide expanse of the beach. For someone as confident as Ino usually was, it was clear that she was a little out of her element. He grinned, hoping to ease her nerves. "Hey, Ino-chan, you okay?" Naruto asked, his voice light. "You've been staring at the ocean like it's going to swallow you up." Ino blinked, shaking her head as she laughed softly. "Sorry, it's just, I've never been to the beach before, and I wasn't expecting so many people. I feel a bit exposed." She tugged at her swimsuit, a hint of red coloring her cheeks. Naruto chuckled, trying to make her feel more comfortable. "Don't worry, you look great, and it's all about having fun today. Besides, we've earned it after everything that's happened." Ino blushed slightly but smiled at Naruto's reassuring words. He had a way of making her feel at ease, even in situations that made her self-conscious. As they reached a good spot near the water, Naruto set down their towels and umbrella, already looking forward to relaxing. He stretched his arms above his head, feeling the warm sun on his skin. "Ah, this is perfect. I haven't been to the beach in a while." Ino watched him with a shy smile. Naruto seemed so at ease, his laid-back demeanor contagious. She had been anxious about wearing her swimsuit, especially with how revealing it felt, but seeing Naruto's relaxed attitude helped her shake off. Ino watched Naruto with a shy smile, appreciating how easily he seemed to adjust to their surroundings. He was relaxed, and the atmosphere of the beach clearly agreed with him. The bright sunlight highlighted his blonde hair, making him look almost as vibrant as the scenery around them. The sight made her own nerves begin to fade. Maybe this day wouldn't be so bad after all. Naruto finished setting up their little spot on the beach, laying out towels under the shade of the umbrella and unpacking a few things from their bag. He turned toward the water, shielding his eyes with one hand as he looked out at the ocean. "All right, Ino-chan, ready to enjoy the day?" Naruto asked, a huge grin spreading across his face. Ino gave him a nod, though she still tugged self-consciously at her swimsuit. She had picked out something relatively modest compared to the more revealing swimsuits around her, but even so, she couldn't help but feel a little exposed. Her body was toned from years of training, and she had confidence in herself. Yet here, with Naruto nearby, she felt different. She felt vulnerable, but not in a bad way. Naruto noticed her hesitation and, being the caring person he was, decided to break the tension. "Come on, Ino-chan. Let's take it easy today. You deserve a break." He ran toward the water, kicking up sand as he went, stopping just short of the waves. Ino laughed, her spirits lifting. "Naruto, you're just like a kid sometimes." He turned and gave her a wink. "You say that like it's a bad thing." Feeling more at ease, Ino walked over to where Naruto stood. The water was cool as it lapped at her feet, contrasting pleasantly with the warmth of the sand. Naruto turned toward her with a mischievous smile, his eyes bright with excitement. "Bet you can't catch me," Naruto suddenly called out, sprinting down the beach, his laughter filling the air. Ino's eyes widened in surprise, but the challenge lit a fire in her. Without a second thought, she chased after him. Her bare feet kicked up sand as she ran, her long blonde hair flowing behind her. Naruto's speed was impressive, but Ino was determined not to let him win so easily. Despite the sand slowing them down, she closed the distance quickly. "Naruto, you're not getting away that easily." Ino yelled with a grin, her competitive side kicking in. Just as Naruto was about to glance back, Ino lunged forward, managing to tackle him into the shallow water. Both of them fell with a splash, the cool ocean drenching them from head to toe. They were soaked, but laughter erupted from both of them as they sat in the shallow waves. "You caught me," Naruto admitted, a boyish grin on his face. "Guess I can't outrun you, huh?" Ino giggled, pushing her wet hair away from her face. "I'm faster than you think, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled warmly at her, water dripping from his hair as he stood up and offered her his hand. "You're amazing, Ino-chan. Always full of surprises." Ino took his hand, her heart skipping a beat at the compliment. Naruto had a way of making her feel special, and even here, in the most casual of settings, he knew exactly how to lift her spirits. She was having more fun than she expected, and the day had just begun. A playful request. After spending some time in the water, they returned to their towels to relax. The sun was getting higher in the sky, and the heat was becoming more intense. Ino noticed that a lot of the other women at the beach were sunbathing, and some of them had their partners applying sunscreen for them. She glanced at Naruto out of the corner of her eye, feeling a little shy about asking him for a favor. She could do it herself, of course, but she had never really done this kind of thing before. Her cheeks turned pink at the thought, but before she could talk herself out of it, she spoke up. "In Naruto-kun," Ino began, her voice a little softer than usual. I was wondering if you could help me with something?" Naruto, who was sipping from a bottle of water, turned toward her, raising an eyebrow. "Sure, Ino-chan. What is it?" Ino hesitated for a moment before continuing, her face flushing a deeper shade of pink. Could you help me put on sunscreen? I don't want to miss any spots, and it's kind of hard to reach my back." Naruto blinked, caught off guard by the request. His face turned red as he quickly processed what she was asking. "Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can help with that." Ino smiled shyly and lay down on her stomach on the beach towel, her hair spread out around her as she positioned herself comfortably. Naruto fumbled with the sunscreen bottle for a moment, trying not to make things awkward. His face was still red as he squeezed some of the lotion into his hands. He hesitated for a moment, glancing down at Ino's exposed back. She looked so calm, but he couldn't help but feel nervous. Still, he reminded himself that he was just helping a friend, and there was no reason to feel weird about it. Carefully, Naruto began applying the sunscreen to her shoulders, his hands gentle as he spread it across her skin. Ino tensed at first, feeling his touch, but then relaxed into it, enjoying the cool sensation against the warmth of the sun. Is this okay?" Naruto asked, his voice quieter than usual. Ino nodded, her eyes closed as she smiled. "It's fine, Naruto-kun. You're doing great." Encouraged by her response, Naruto continued, rubbing the sunscreen down her back, his fingers brushing lightly against her skin. He was careful, taking his time, making sure not to miss any spots. His hands slid down to her lower back, and just as he was finishing, his hand accidentally brushed against her waist. Both of them froze for a moment, their faces turning red as they processed what had just happened. "I am sorry," Naruto stammered, pulling his hand back quickly, his face burning with embarrassment. Ino giggled, her own cheeks pink, but she wasn't upset. In fact, the whole situation just felt sweet. "It's okay, Naruto-kun. Really. Thank you for helping." Naruto let out a breath of relief, finishing up and sitting back down on his towel. His heart was racing, and he could still feel the warmth of her skin on his hands. He glanced over at her, trying to act casual, but his mind was still spinning. "It's no problem," Naruto said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Anything for you, Ino-chan." Ino smiled, feeling her heart flutter at his words. She sat up, her hair falling over her shoulders as she looked at him, her blue eyes shining with warmth. The beach had always seemed like such a distant, unattainable experience for her, but being here with Naruto made it special, something she would never forget. The beach was a perfect blend of blue sky, golden sand, and the gentle murmur of waves rolling in from the ocean. Naruto and Ino, after playing in the water, had finally returned to their towels. The sun was climbing higher in the sky, and the heat was intensifying. People all around them were sunbathing, swimming, and enjoying the beach's warmth. Ino, her cheeks a soft pink from both the sun and her earlier nervousness, sat on her towel and looked around. She noticed many of the women were lying down, asking their partners to help apply sunscreen. The idea made her blush, and she glanced at Naruto out of the corner of her eye. She could technically apply the sunscreen herself, but it was difficult to reach her back. Plus, there was something about the idea of asking Naruto that made her heart race. She fidgeted with the sunscreen bottle in her hand before clearing her throat, her voice coming out a bit softer than usual. "And Naruto-kun?" Naruto, taking a sip of water and enjoying the peace, turned to look at her. "Yeah, Ino-chan? What's up?" She hesitated, her face turning redder by the second. "Could you help me put on some sunscreen? I can't really reach my back." Naruto blinked in surprise, caught off guard by the request. His face immediately turned bright red as the meaning of her request sank in. Why yeah, sure. I mean of course. No problem, Ino-chan. Ino gave him a grateful smile, though she was still blushing furiously. She lay down on her stomach on her towel, spreading her long blonde hair over one side so Naruto could reach her back. Her heart was pounding in her chest, and she couldn't quite shake the nervous excitement fluttering in her stomach. Naruto, meanwhile, fumbled with the bottle of sunscreen, trying to keep his cool. His mind raced, and his hands shook slightly as he squeezed some of the lotion into his palm. It's just sunscreen, he told himself. No big deal, just helping a friend. He started applying the lotion to her shoulders, carefully rubbing it in with gentle motions. Ino tensed up at first, the coolness of the sunscreen mixed with the sensation of Naruto's hands on her skin sending a shiver down her spine. But after a few seconds, she relaxed, enjoying the feeling. You're doing great, Ino said, her voice soft as she closed her eyes. Naruto smiled, feeling a little more at ease. Thanks, Ino-chan. He continued rubbing the sunscreen into her back, careful to avoid any awkwardness. However, as his hands reached lower toward her waist, his fingers accidentally brushed against her side. Both of them froze. Naruto immediately pulled his hand back, his face burning with embarrassment. Sorry. That was an accident. Ino couldn't help but giggle at his reaction. It's okay, Naruto-kun. Really? Her cheeks were red too, but she found the whole situation kind of cute. Naruto let out a sigh of relief and quickly finished applying the sunscreen, sitting back on his towel with a huge exhale. His heart was racing from the tension, and he was doing his best to act like everything was normal. But before they could settle down, a group of women passing by noticed Naruto helping Ino and approached them, giggling. Excuse us, one of them said with a playful grin. It looks like you're pretty good at helping with sunscreen. Mind giving us a hand too? Naruto's face turned crimson as he scrambled to reply. Wait. I was just… Before he could finish, Ino jumped in, standing up quickly and waving her hands in front of them. No. He's not available right now. She was blushing furiously, not entirely sure why she felt the need to pull Naruto away, but the thought of him helping other girls like that made her feel competitive. The women laughed at Ino's reaction. It looks like you've got him all to yourself. Lucky you. Ino's face turned an even deeper shade of red. It's not like that. She paused, realizing how silly she sounded, and instead grabbed Naruto by the arm, pulling him away from the group. Come on, Naruto-kun. Naruto, still flustered and unsure of what just happened, followed her without complaint. He was grateful to escape the situation, though he was completely embarrassed. Ino, still holding onto his arm, dragged him away from the crowd, trying to regain her composure. As they moved further down the beach, both of them tried to shake off the awkwardness. That was interesting, Naruto said, finally breaking the silence. He scratched the back of his head, his face still slightly pink. Ino huffed, but then laughed, her earlier tension fading away. I just didn't want them bothering you. Besides, I asked you first. She teased, though she wasn't sure if her words had a deeper meaning. Naruto blinked and looked at her, his smile returning. Well, thanks for the save, Ino-chan. They found another quieter spot on the beach and set their things down again, enjoying the fresh breeze from the ocean. As the sun began to lower in the sky, the golden rays softened, casting a beautiful glow over the horizon. Ino, finally feeling more comfortable, leaned back on her towel and glanced at Naruto. You know, despite everything, today has been a lot of fun. Naruto nodded, relaxing beside her. Yeah, it has. We should do this more often. Just taking time to enjoy life, you know? Ino smiled, watching the waves crash gently against the shore. Yeah, it's nice to take a break from everything. As they sat there, basking in the peaceful atmosphere, Naruto suddenly had an idea. Hey, do you want to play volleyball? They have a net set up over there. Ino raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Volleyball, huh? Sure, I could give that a try. Naruto grinned and jumped to his feet. Great. Let's go. Hashtag a fun game of volleyball. Naruto and Ino made their way to the volleyball court, where a few other beachgoers had gathered to play. They teamed up and quickly found themselves in the middle of an energetic game, diving for the ball, laughing at their mistakes, and cheering each other on when they scored points. Ino, despite her initial hesitation, found herself having an incredible time. The competitiveness of the game brought out her fiery spirit, and she couldn't help but enjoy watching Naruto's determined expression as he spiked the ball over the net. "You're pretty good at this," Naruto said, panting as he wiped sweat from his forehead. Ino grinned, brushing her hair out of her face. "You're not so bad yourself, Naruto, but let's see if you can keep up." The game went on for a while, and even though they didn't keep score, it felt like a victory for both of them. By the time they finished, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple. They returned to their towels, tired but happy, sitting down to watch the sunset in comfortable silence. The day had been filled with laughter, challenges, and new memories. Naruto stretched his arms above his head, letting out a content sigh. "Today was awesome, Ino-chan. I'm glad we did this." Ino, her cheeks still a little pink, nodded in agreement. "Me too. I've never had a day like this before." Naruto turned to her, smiling softly. "We should do this more often, just you and me." Ino's heart skipped a beat at his words, and she found herself smiling back, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I'd like that." As the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Naruto and Ino sat side by side, watching the world change around them. It was peaceful, beautiful, and most of all, it was a moment they both knew they would never forget. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a golden glow over the beach as the sound of waves gently lapping at the shore created a soothing rhythm. Naruto and Ino had spent most of the day enjoying the warm sand, playing games, and soaking in the beauty of the ocean. But now, it was time for something that made Ino a little nervous: swimming. Naruto, noticing the slight unease in her expression, grinned widely. "Ino-chan, don't tell me you've never been swimming before?" Ino flushed slightly, her cheeks turning pink. I haven't really had the chance to. Okay? I've never been to the beach, remember?" Naruto blinked in surprise, his grin softening into a warm smile. "Well, today's the perfect day to learn. Don't worry, I'll teach you how to swim. It's easy, and I promise it'll be fun." Ino's blush deepened as she glanced out at the vast expanse of the ocean. She trusted Naruto, of course, but the idea of getting into the water with him, especially considering she wasn't confident about her swimming skills, made her a little self-conscious. "Well, okay," she said softly, nodding her head, "but you better not make fun of me if I mess up." Naruto laughed, waving a hand dismissively. "I would never make fun of you, Ino-chan. I'm here to help. Come on, let's get into the water." He grabbed her hand with enthusiasm, and before Ino could protest, they were both running toward the shoreline. The warm water lapped at their ankles, and Ino hesitated for a moment as the waves tickled her feet. "It's not that bad, right?" Naruto asked, giving her a reassuring smile. Ino nodded, feeling a bit more confident. "Yeah, it's not too cold." With Naruto leading the way, they ventured deeper into the water, the cool waves rising up to their waists. Ino took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had seen people swim before, but she had no real experience herself. "Okay, so the first thing you need to do is relax," Naruto said, his voice light and encouraging. "Don't overthink it. The water's going to help you float, and I'll be right here with you." Ino gave him a hesitant smile, feeling a bit more reassured by his calm demeanor. She trusted Naruto, and that made all the difference. Naruto positioned himself next to her, his hands out in front of him as if ready to catch her if needed. "All right, try lying back and letting the water hold you up. I've got you." Ino hesitated for a moment before slowly leaning back, feeling the cool water rise up to her shoulders. She tried to relax as Naruto instructed, but the sensation of floating felt strange and unfamiliar. Naruto chuckled softly as he saw the look of concentration on her face. "It's okay, Ino-chan. Just let go and trust the water." With a deep breath, Ino finally relaxed, her body floating gently on the surface. For a brief moment, everything was peaceful. The sound of the waves, the warmth of the sun, and Naruto's encouraging smile. It all made her feel safe. But just as she was starting to feel more confident, a small wave rolled in and splashed her in the face. Surprised, Ino flailed for a moment, trying to find her balance. "Wah, Naruto!" she yelped, reaching out for him instinctively. Naruto, ever the quick thinker, caught her by the arms, pulling her upright before she could sink any further into the water. But in the process, his eyes widened as he realized something. Ino's swimsuit, which had fit perfectly fine on land, had loosened up slightly in the water, and her top had slipped just a little too much. Naruto's face turned beet red in an instant, and he quickly turned his head away, stammering in embarrassment. Ino-chan, your swimsuit." Ino, completely unaware of what he was talking about, looked at him in confusion. What's wrong?" Naruto covered his eyes with his hand, his voice shaking as he tried to explain. Your top. It's a little loose." Ino's eyes widened as she realized what he was saying, and her face flushed a deep shade of crimson. What? Panicking, she quickly adjusted her swimsuit, pulling the straps back into place as her heart raced in embarrassment. "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize." Naruto, still covering his eyes, laughed awkwardly, trying to lighten the situation. "I didn't see anything. I swear." Ino, now fully aware of how close they were, felt her cheeks burn even more. But instead of letting the moment ruin her confidence, she found herself laughing, partly out of relief and partly because the whole thing was just so ridiculous. "I can't believe that just happened," Ino said, shaking her head, still blushing but smiling nonetheless. Naruto peeked out from between his fingers, seeing her laugh, and he couldn't help but smile too. "Yeah, that was a little unexpected." Ino, feeling a bit more at ease now, playfully splashed some water at Naruto, making him jump. "This is your fault for getting me into the water in the first place." After the initial awkwardness of the swimsuit mishap, both Naruto and Ino stood in the shallow water, their faces still slightly red from embarrassment. But the tension between them quickly gave way to laughter, the kind that came from relief and a shared funny moment. Naruto shook his head, water droplets flying off his blonde hair as he grinned at Ino. "Well, that was unexpected. But hey, we survived it." Ino giggled, still adjusting her swimsuit to make sure it was secure. "Yeah, I can't believe that happened. You'd think I'd have more experience with this whole beach thing by now." Naruto shrugged, giving her a reassuring smile. "It happens to the best of us, Ino-chan. But you know what? It's a beautiful day, we're at the beach, and it's time to have some fun." He flashed her a playful grin. "How about we forget about the embarrassing stuff and see who's faster in the water?" Ino raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Faster, huh? You really want to challenge me?" Naruto puffed out his chest, playfully tapping his nose. "Oh, I'm definitely challenging you. Unless you're scared you'll lose." Ino splashed him lightly, sending a spray of water right into his face. "Lose? To you? You've got another thing coming, Naruto-kun." With a competitive spark in her eyes, Ino turned and dashed toward the deeper water, sending waves splashing around her legs as she ran. Naruto, not one to back down from a challenge, followed closely behind, his footsteps splashing loudly as he chased her. "I'm not going easy on you, Ino-chan," Naruto called out, laughing as he gained on her. "Who said I needed you to go easy on me?" Ino shot back, her laugh carrying over the sound of the waves. The water reached up to their waists now, and Naruto dove forward, sending a large splash toward Ino. She shrieked, giggling as she tried to dodge it, but the cool water hit her anyway. "Oh, you're so going down for that." Ino laughed, scooping up a handful of water and throwing it straight at Naruto. Naruto tried to shield himself, but the splash hit him square in the face. He gasped dramatically, pretending to be offended. "Oh, it's like that, huh?" With a mischievous grin, Naruto cupped his hands and sent a massive wave of water her way. Ino squealed, trying to jump out of the way, but the wave drenched her. She wiped the water from her eyes, a playful glint in her gaze as she lunged toward him. In a flurry of water and laughter, Ino leaped onto Naruto's back, grabbing hold of his shoulders as he staggered under her sudden weight. "Gotcha!" she exclaimed triumphantly. Naruto laughed, trying to keep his balance as Ino clung to him. "Oh no, you don't. I'm not going down that easily." With a playful roar, Naruto turned and spun around, sending water flying in all directions as he twirled them both in the waves. Ino held on tightly, laughing uncontrollably. "Naruto, you're going to make me dizzy." "That's the plan," Naruto teased, spinning her a few more times before finally stopping, both of them panting from laughter. Ino slid off his back, stumbling slightly in the water as she tried to regain her balance. She looked up at him, her blue eyes sparkling with joy. "You're impossible," she said, still catching her breath. Naruto grinned, shaking his head. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Being impossible is kind of my thing." Ino laughed, her heart feeling lighter than it had in a long time. Being with Naruto always had that effect. He had a way of making everything seem brighter, more fun. And here, in the water, with the sun shining down on them, she felt truly happy. They stood in the water for a moment, catching their breath and enjoying the sound of the waves crashing around them. The beach was buzzing with activity. Families, couples, and groups of friends all enjoying the warm day. But for Naruto and Ino, it felt like they had their own little world out there in the ocean, away from the noise and stress of their daily lives. Okay, Ino said, still smiling. "I admit it. You're actually pretty good at this whole beach thing." Naruto crossed his arms, raising an eyebrow. "Pretty good? I think you mean awesome." Ino rolled her eyes playfully. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Naruto-kun." Naruto grinned, but then his expression turned thoughtful. "Hey, Ino-chan, have you ever tried floating on your back?" Ino blinked, shaking her head. "No, I haven't. I mean, I know how it's supposed to work, but I've never really tried it." Naruto's grin widened. "Perfect. I'll teach you. It's actually really relaxing once you get the hang of it." Ino hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "All right, let's give it a shot." Naruto positioned himself beside her, holding out his arms to guide her. "Okay, first, you just need to trust the water. It'll hold you up, but you have to stay calm and let yourself float." Ino nodded, feeling a bit nervous, but trusting Naruto completely. Slowly, she leaned back, allowing the water to support her as Naruto guided her movements. The feeling was strange at first, but as the gentle waves rocked her, she started to relax. "That's it," Naruto said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Just let go and let the water carry you." Ino closed her eyes, a peaceful smile spreading across her face as she floated on her back. The sun was warm on her skin, and the sound of the waves filled her ears. For a moment, everything felt perfect. "I think I've got it," Ino said, her voice soft and content. Naruto smiled, watching her with a sense of pride. "You're a natural, Ino-chan. Told you it was easy." They stayed like that for a while, Ino floating peacefully while Naruto stayed nearby, making sure she was comfortable. After a few more minutes, Ino stood up, her feet finding the sand beneath the water once more. "That was actually really nice," Ino admitted, brushing her wet hair back from her face. Naruto nodded, a satisfied grin on his face. "Told you, the beach is the best." As they started making their way back toward the shore, Naruto suddenly got a mischievous glint in his eyes. Without warning, he splashed her again, sending a wave of water right at her. Ino gasped, her eyes wide with surprise. "Naruto," but instead of getting mad, she laughed and retaliated, scooping up water and throwing it right back at him. The playful water fight continued all the way back to the shore, with both of them soaked and laughing by the time they reached their towels. ##### relaxing on the shore. Once they had dried off and settled back onto their towels, they lay side by side under the umbrella, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the cool breeze from the ocean. "That was fun," Ino said, her voice full of contentment. "I didn't realize how much I needed a day like this." Naruto smiled, turning his head to look at her. "Yeah, we all need a break sometimes. It's nice to just relax and not worry about anything for a while." Ino nodded in agreement, her heart feeling lighter than it had in a long time. She glanced over at Naruto, watching as he closed his eyes, enjoying the peace of the moment. "Thanks for bringing me here," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Naruto opened one eye, smiling at her. "Anytime, Ino-chan." They lay there in comfortable silence, the sounds of the beach surrounding them as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon. The day had been full of fun, laughter, and more than a few surprises, but for Ino, it had been perfect. As the waves continued to crash against the shore and the seagulls called overhead, Naruto and Ino shared a quiet moment of peace, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the golden sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a warm, fiery glow across the ocean, The day at the beach was coming to a peaceful close. The earlier excitement from swimming, splashing, and laughter had given way to a serene calm, where the only sounds were the rhythmic crash of waves and the soft rustle of the evening breeze. Naruto and Ino had settled down on their towels, the sand cool beneath them as the temperature began to drop with the setting sun. The once busy beach had quieted, and now it felt as if it were just the two of them, alone in their own little world. Naruto, exhausted from the day's fun, had dozed off. He lay on his back, his head resting gently on Ino's feet, his breathing steady and peaceful. Ino watched him from where she sat, feeling a soft warmth blooming in her chest. His face was so calm, and his blonde hair, damp from the ocean, glistened in the last light of the sun. The sight made her heart flutter. Ino's cheeks turned pink as she absent-mindedly ran her fingers through his hair, twirling the soft strands between her fingertips. "His hair is so soft," she murmured to herself, her voice barely audible over the sound of the ocean. She couldn't help but admire the way the golden sunlight reflected off Naruto's skin, which was fair and smooth, almost glowing against the backdrop of the darkening sky. Her thoughts began to wander, and before she knew it, she was lost in the moment. Naruto looked so handsome lying there, his face relaxed, his strong, lean body stretched out in the sand. He had always been such a powerful figure in her life, courageous, kind, and never one to back down from a challenge. And yet, here he was, completely at ease with her. It made her feel special. A gentle smile tugged at Ino's lips as she continued to play with his hair, her fingers brushing lightly over his scalp. "You're so soft and beautiful, Naruto-kun," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Her gaze traveled over his face, lingering on the line of his jaw, the slight flush on his cheeks, and his lips that were slightly parted in sleep. Why hasn't he ever been with anyone? She wondered silently. He's everything a girl could want, kind, strong, and so handsome. The thought made her blush even more, and before she could stop herself, she asked the question that had been on her mind all day. "Naruto-kun, why are you still single?" Her voice was quiet, almost hesitant, as she didn't want to disturb his peaceful slumber. But to her surprise, Naruto stirred slightly, his blue eyes slowly fluttering open. He blinked up at her, his face still soft with sleep, before a faint blush crept into his cheeks at her question. "Huh? Oh, that's kind of a random question, Ino-chan," Naruto mumbled, rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly as he sat up slightly, still resting his head on her feet. His face turned a shade of pink as he tried to gather his thoughts. "I guess," Naruto started, feeling a little embarrassed by the sudden question. "I guess I just haven't found the right person yet." Ino's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected such a genuine answer, and her blush deepened. She lowered her gaze to the sand, fiddling with a strand of her hair. "Oh, I see." There was a moment of silence between them, the only sound being the gentle roll of the waves. Ino couldn't help but wonder if Naruto had ever thought about her in that way. After all, they had grown so close over the past few months, sharing moments that felt more intimate than just simple friendship. Her mind raced with thoughts she hadn't allowed herself to consider before. But now, sitting here with him, she couldn't shake them. Gathering her courage, Ino spoke again, her voice softer this time. "Naruto-kun, am I not suitable for you?" Naruto's eyes widened in surprise at her question, and he quickly sat up, turning to face her. His face turned bright red as he processed what she was asking, his heart racing in his chest. He could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the uncertainty, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. "You, Ino-chan?" Naruto stammered, his voice full of disbelief. "You're more than suitable. You're amazing." Ino's blush deepened as she felt her heart skip several beats. "Really? You mean that?" Naruto nodded, his own cheeks burning with embarrassment as he continued. "Of course. You're smart, strong, and beautiful, Ino-chan. You've always been someone I admired. I guess I never thought you'd think of me that way." Ino smiled shyly, her eyes meeting his. "I do, Naruto-kun. I think about it a lot." Naruto felt his heart swell with warmth at her words. He wasn't used to hearing such things from someone like Ino, someone he respected and cared about deeply. Without thinking, He reached out and gently wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer to him as they sat together on the beach. "Ino-chan," Naruto whispered, his voice soft but full of emotion. "You're more than suitable. You're perfect." Ino's face turned a deep shade of red as she felt Naruto's arms around her, his words sinking deep into her heart. She had always known that Naruto was someone special, but hearing him say those things to her made her feel like the most important person in the world. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she whispered, resting her head on his shoulder. "That means more to me than you know." For a few moments, they sat like that, wrapped in each other's embrace, the sound of the waves providing a soothing backdrop to their quiet moment. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, connected by the unspoken feelings they had for one another. Naruto, still feeling the heat in his cheeks, slowly pulled away, though his hand lingered on her waist. He smiled awkwardly, trying to shake off the nervousness that had settled over him. "I think it's time to go," he said, his voice a little shaky. Ino nodded, her heart still fluttering from their conversation. "Yeah, I guess we should." They both stood up, brushing the sand off their clothes as they prepared to leave the beach. Ino glanced at Naruto as he pulled on his shirt, noticing how the golden light of the sunset made his skin seem to glow. She felt a wave of warmth wash over her, knowing that the bond they shared had grown even stronger. As they began to walk back toward their car, the sun dipping lower on the horizon, Naruto hesitated for a moment before glancing back at Ino. "Ino-chan?" he asked softly, his voice carrying a hint of nervousness. "Tomorrow, would you like to hang out again? Just the two of us?" Ino's heart skipped a beat as she looked up at him, her cheeks flushing with warmth. "I'd love that, Naruto-kun." Naruto grinned, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "Great, then it's a date." Ino smiled back, her heart soaring as they walked side by side toward the car, the sunset casting a beautiful glow over their path. For the first time in a long time, Ino felt a sense of hope and happiness she hadn't expected. As the car rolled to a gentle stop in front of Naruto's apartment, the sky had shifted from the brilliant hues of sunset to a velvety, star-filled night. The glow of the moonlight bathed everything in a soft, calming light. In the passenger seat, Ino rested her head against the window, her eyelids fluttering, clearly exhausted from the long day at the beach. Her sun-kissed skin and slightly messy hair were a testament to how much fun they had. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the sight of her, feeling a warmth in his chest. The day had been filled with laughter, playful splashes, and conversations that felt both natural and meaningful. Naruto glanced over at her as the engine quieted. The peaceful expression on Ino's face made him hesitate to wake her up, but they had arrived, and she needed to rest inside. "Ino-chan, we're here," Naruto said softly, his voice gentle as he reached over to lightly tap her shoulder. Ino stirred, blinking slowly as she woke from her light nap. "Oh, we're back already?" she asked, her voice soft and a little groggy. She stretched slightly but then winced, feeling the weariness in her limbs from the day's activities. Naruto chuckled as he got out of the car and walked around to her side. "You had a pretty busy day, huh? You look exhausted." Before Ino could respond, Naruto opened the car door and reached down to offer her a hand. But then, without thinking twice, he bent down and scooped her up effortlessly, cradling her in his arms in the bridal position. "Wah, Naruto!" Ino exclaimed, her cheeks immediately turning a deep shade of pink. "What are you doing?" Naruto grinned, laughing lightly as he carried her toward the house. "You look too tired to walk, so I figured I'd help you out. Plus, you seem to like being carried like this," he teased, remembering the last time he had carried her in a similar way. Ino's face flushed even more, and she turned her head slightly to hide her embarrassment. Though she couldn't deny the fluttering feeling in her chest, she also loved the way Naruto was always so thoughtful. He never hesitated to take care of her, even in the smallest of ways. "Why, you don't have to carry me all the time, you know?" she murmured shyly, though there was a hint of affection in her voice. Naruto just laughed again, his steps light as he made his way up the stairs to his apartment. "Hey, I don't mind at all, Ino-chan. Besides, it's kind of fun." Ino, despite her embarrassment, couldn't help but smile softly to herself. Being this close to Naruto made her heart race in ways she hadn't fully realized until now. She wrapped her arms around his neck, holding on tightly as he carried her into the apartment. The warmth of his embrace, combined with the comforting sound of his heartbeat, made her feel safe, like she truly belonged there, right beside him. Once they were inside, Naruto gently set her down on the couch, his smile softening as he met her eyes. "There you go, Ino-chan. Home sweet home." Ino sat up, still blushing slightly but feeling a sense of gratitude for Naruto's thoughtfulness. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she said quietly, her eyes shining with appreciation. "You're always so considerate." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, looking slightly embarrassed himself. It's nothing, really. I just want to make sure you're comfortable." There was a brief moment of silence between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was a calm, peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that came when two people were perfectly in tune with each other. The sounds of the city outside were distant, and the warmth of the apartment made the atmosphere feel cozy and safe. ##### a moment of reflection. Later that night, after they had both taken some time to unwind, Ino found herself in her room, dressed in her soft pajamas, reflecting on the day. She was happier than she had been in a long time. The beach, the laughter, and the easy companionship with Naruto had made the day feel special, like she was building memories that would stay with her forever. But it wasn't just the fun that made her heart swell with happiness. It was Naruto himself. She sat on her bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her face was still slightly flushed from all the thoughts running through her mind. She remembered something Sakura had told her not too long ago. If you want to get closer to him, you have to show him how much you care. Don't be afraid to be a little bold, Ino. Sometimes guys need a little nudge. Ino sighed, her cheeks burning as she thought about that advice. Be bold? She wasn't sure she could pull that off. But then again, she had come this far with Naruto. Why not take one more step? Gathering her courage, Ino stood up and made her way toward Naruto's room. She had no grand plan, no prepared words, but her heart told her that she wanted to be close to him tonight, closer than they had ever been before. ##### An unexpected visitor. Naruto, meanwhile, was getting ready for bed in his room. He had just changed into his comfortable clothes and was about to settle down for the night when there was a soft knock on his door. Before he could respond, the door creaked open and Ino stepped inside, her face flushed and her eyes slightly nervous. Naruto blinked in surprise, sitting up on his bed. "Ino-chan? What's up?" Ino hesitated for a moment, wringing her hands together before finally speaking. "Naruto-kun, I was wondering if I could sleep in here with you tonight?" Naruto's face turned red at her request, his mind immediately racing. What? In here? With me?" Ino nodded, her face burning with embarrassment, but there was a determined look in her eyes. "Yeah, I don't want to be alone tonight. I had such a good day and I want to be near you." Naruto's heart thudded in his chest, but he nodded, unable to find any reason to refuse her. Sure, Ino-chan. If it makes you feel better." Ino smiled, relieved by his answer, and without another word, she crawled onto the bed beside him. She snuggled up against him, resting her head on his shoulder, feeling his warmth radiating through the blankets. Naruto, though still a bit flustered, relaxed into the moment, his arm instinctively wrapping around her. They lay there together in the soft glow of the night, the weight of the day melting away as they found comfort in each other's presence. #### A quiet, peaceful night. As the minutes passed, the room grew quieter, and the sounds of the city outside became a distant hum. Ino, feeling more comfortable now that she was lying beside Naruto, allowed herself to relax completely. She closed her eyes, her hand resting gently on his chest as she felt the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Naruto, still slightly embarrassed but feeling an overwhelming sense of peace, turned his head slightly to look at Ino. Her face was calm, her hair spilling over the pillow in soft waves, and there was a faint smile on her lips. "Thank you for today, Naruto-kun," Ino whispered, her voice barely audible. Naruto smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "You're welcome, Ino-chan. I'm really glad we spent the day together." Ino's smile grew, and without thinking, she reached up and gently ran her fingers through his hair, feeling the softness of the golden strands. "I won't let anyone come between us, Naruto-kun," she whispered, her words full of emotion. Naruto blinked, his heart skipping a beat at her words. He didn't know exactly what she meant, but hearing the conviction in her voice made him feel reassured. Like no matter what happened, they would always have each other. Me neither, Naruto replied softly, his voice steady. Ino snuggled closer to him, feeling a deep sense of happiness and comfort. She had never imagined feeling this close to someone before, but now that she was here, with Naruto beside her, she couldn't imagine being anywhere else. And so, under the quiet glow of the night, with the soft sounds of the city outside and the warmth of their shared connection, Naruto and Ino drifted off to sleep, their hearts full of hope for whatever tomorrow might bring. In the dimly lit, run-down living room of his house, Ino's father sat hunched over the table, his eyes narrowing in frustration. His hand clenched into a tight fist, slamming down on the table with a loud thud, rattling the empty bottles scattered around him. He had been searching for her, his daughter, Ino, everywhere. The days had turned into weeks, and now it had been a month and a half with no sign of her. His patience was long gone, replaced by a simmering rage that threatened to boil over. He had scoured every place he could think of, questioned everyone who might have known her whereabouts, and yet, nothing. Ino had vanished without a trace, slipping out of his grasp like sand through his fingers. He gritted his teeth, his mind racing with dark thoughts. To him, Ino wasn't just a daughter. She was his way out, his key to making a quick fortune. He had spent years blaming her for the death of her mother, using her as a scapegoat for all his failures. And now, with his debts piling up and his desperation growing, he had come up with a vile plan. To sell her, to use her for his own gain. She's still a virgin, he muttered to himself, a twisted grin spreading across his face. That'll fetch a high price, higher than anything else I've ever had. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his unkempt hair as he stared blankly at the ceiling. The brothel owners he had contacted were more than willing to pay a hefty sum for a girl like Ino. She was young, beautiful, and innocent, a commodity that would sell for an unimaginable amount. All he had to do was find her, and he could finally rid himself of his burdens. But she had disappeared, gone without a word, without a trace. "Where are you, Ino?" he snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "You think you can hide from me forever?" The thought of her out there, somewhere, living her life freely, perhaps even with someone else, only fueled his anger further. He stood up suddenly, knocking over a chair in the process as he paced back and forth, his mind racing with thoughts of revenge. "I'll find you, girl," he hissed under his breath, his eyes dark and dangerous. "And when I do, you'll regret ever running away from me." In his twisted mind, Ino wasn't just a missing daughter. She was a lost investment, and he would stop at nothing to reclaim her. He had connections in the underground world, people who dealt in shady businesses, and he knew it was only a matter of time before he got a lead on her whereabouts. With a deep breath, he pulled out his phone and dialed one of the many contacts he had in the underworld. The line buzzed for a moment before a gruff voice answered on the other end. "What do you want?" Ino's father's voice was cold and calculated as he spoke. "I need you to find someone for me. My daughter, Ino. She's been missing for over a month now, and I don't have time to waste. I want her found, dead or alive. It doesn't matter to me. Just find her." There was a pause on the other end, followed by a low chuckle. "A missing daughter, huh? You know that's going to cost you." Ino's father clenched his fist, his frustration bubbling over. "I don't care about the cost. I'll pay whatever it takes. Just find her." Another laugh came through the phone, this one darker and more sinister. "Consider it done. But remember, once we find her, what happens next is up to you." Ino's father hung up the phone, his expression hard and determined. He would get her back, one way or another. And when he did, she wouldn't be running away again. She would be under his control, exactly where he wanted her. And he would make sure she paid for all the trouble she had caused him. "I'll sell her to the highest bidder," he muttered to himself, the twisted grin returning to his face. "And no one, no one, will stand in my way." As the night wore on, the anger and desperation inside him only grew, and he vowed that he would not stop until he had Ino back in his grasp, no matter what it took. The soft morning light streamed into the room as Ino slowly woke up. The warmth of the bed and the faint sounds of birds outside made the morning feel peaceful, almost idyllic. But as Ino became more aware of her surroundings, she noticed something unusual. Naruto, still fast asleep, had shifted in the night, his face nestled against her chest. The faint sounds of birds outside made the morning seem peaceful and almost perfect. But as Ino became more aware of her surroundings, she noticed something unusual. Naruto, still asleep, stirred in the night, his face resting on her chest. Ino's face immediately turned bright red as her heart raced. She froze for a moment, unsure of how to react. She had never been in such an intimate position with Naruto before, and though it was innocent, it still made her extremely self-conscious. She took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. Naruto-kun, she whispered softly, trying to gently move him. Naruto stirred, his eyes slowly opening as he realized the situation. His face turned crimson in an instant, and he quickly sat up, stumbling over his words in embarrassment. Ino-chan, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Naruto stammered, rubbing the back of his neck, his eyes wide with panic. I don't know how that happened, I swear. Ino, still blushing, waved her hand. It's okay, Naruto-kun. Really, I know you didn't mean it. She smiled to reassure him, though her heart was still racing. She appreciated that he was always so genuine, even when things got awkward. His honesty was part of what she liked about him, but as the moment passed, Ino couldn't shake the sudden heaviness that filled her chest. The warmth of the morning, the safety of being with Naruto, it all felt too fragile. She had been living in peace with him for weeks now, but there was something dark that lingered in the back of her mind. A gnawing feeling, like a shadow that wouldn't leave. Her father, the thought of him still haunted her, even in her happiest moments. Ino sat quietly for a moment, feeling the weight of the fear settle into her chest. She had run from him, escaped his control, but she knew he wouldn't give up so easily. He was relentless, and his anger was dangerous. Ino-chan? Naruto's voice broke through her thoughts, his concern evident. Are you okay? Ino blinked, realizing she had zoned out. She smiled softly, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Yeah, I'm fine. Naruto frowned slightly, seeing through her attempt to brush off her worries. He reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. If something's bothering you, you can tell me. You know that, right? Ino hesitated, her fingers gripping the edge of the blanket. I can't shake this feeling, Naruto-kun. I think my father is looking for me. I don't know why, but I just feel it in my chest. Naruto's eyes softened, and he pulled her into a gentle hug. You're safe here, Ino-chan. I won't let anything happen to you, I promise. Ino buried her face in his shoulder, feeling a mix of comfort and fear. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust that everything would be okay, but the feeling wouldn't go away. A day at the amusement park. After a shower and breakfast, Naruto suggested a trip to the amusement park, hoping to lift Ino's spirits. He knew how much she had been carrying lately and thought that some fun might help her feel a little lighter. Besides, they both deserved a break. Ino, still feeling the weight of her worries, agreed, hoping that the distraction would that made all the difference. Sure. Here's the revised and extended scene, incorporating both the amusement park experience and the subplot with Ino's father. #### Chapter 12. A day at the amusement park. After their morning routine of showering and eating breakfast, Naruto suggested a trip to the amusement park. He could see the lingering worry on Ino's face from the past few weeks and knew that she needed a break from everything. He hoped a day of fun might lift her spirits, and truth be told, he could use some excitement too. Ino, still feeling the weight of her anxiety, nodded and agreed. Deep down, she was looking forward to the distraction. After all, it had been a long time since she'd done anything remotely carefree. As they approached the park's entrance, the bustling energy hit them immediately. Bright colors, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy, the excited chatter of families, and the clanking of roller coasters filled the air. For the first time in days, Ino found herself smiling without the burden of fear weighing her down. This place is amazing, Ino said, her eyes wide as she took in the vibrant atmosphere. I haven't been to an amusement park in forever. Naruto grinned, happy to see the glimmer of excitement in her eyes. I knew you'd love it. Today's going to be a blast. Let's make some memories. As they wandered through the park, Naruto's attention was immediately drawn to a towering roller coaster in the distance. His eyes lit up with excitement, though a small knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach as he remembered their last roller coaster adventure. "Hey, Ino-chan," Naruto said, pointing toward the massive coaster. "Remember the last time we went on one of those? I wasn't exactly calm, was I?" Ino laughed at the memory, the sound light and free. "Oh, I remember. You were screaming like crazy the entire time. I thought you were going to lose your voice from all the yelling." Naruto's face flushed as he rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed but determined. "Yeah, well, this time is different. I've got it under control. No more screaming for me." Ino raised an eyebrow, amused by his bold confidence. "Is that so? All right, Naruto-kun. I'll believe it when I see it." They made their way into the line for the roller coaster. The ride's steel framework towered above them, and every few moments, the sound of the carts speeding by filled the air, followed by the distant screams of other riders. The anticipation built with each step forward, and Naruto could feel the pressure mounting as they got closer to the front. Finally, it was their turn. They climbed into the cart, pulling the safety bar down over their laps. Naruto shot Ino a determined look, determined to keep his cool this time. "Remember," Ino teased, "no screaming." Naruto nodded, gripping the safety bar tightly. "I've got this." The roller coaster began its slow ascent up the first steep hill, the chains clanking beneath them as they climbed higher and higher. The cityscape below came into view, growing smaller as they neared the top. Ino glanced around, enjoying the view and the cool breeze. But Naruto's focus was locked on the track ahead. His grip tightened as the cart reached the peak of the hill and hung there for a brief, heart-stopping moment. Then, without warning, they plummeted. "Ah!" Naruto's scream filled the air as they raced down the track, the wind whipping past them at lightning speed. The coaster twisted and turned through loops and sharp curves, sending them hurtling through the air. Ino, meanwhile, laughed uncontrollably beside him, her hands in the air, clearly enjoying every second of the ride. When the roller coaster finally slowed to a stop, Ino wiped tears from her eyes, still giggling. "So much for no screaming." Naruto stumbled out of the cart, his legs wobbling slightly as he tried to regain his balance. His face was pale, and he was visibly shaking from the adrenaline. He tried to laugh it off, but his body had betrayed him. Ino quickly noticed Naruto's state and couldn't help but smile sympathetically. She wrapped her arms around him in a comforting hug. "It's okay, Naruto-kun," she said softly, her voice full of warmth. "You were great. You faced it, and that's what matters." Naruto blushed, both from the embarrassment of his reaction and the warmth of Ino's hug. "Thanks, Ino-chan," he mumbled. "I guess I'm still not cut out for roller coasters." Ino laughed and patted his back. "It's fine. We'll stick to the calmer rides from now on." Hashtag the haunted house. A different kind of terror. After Naruto had fully recovered from the roller coaster, the two of them continued exploring the park. They played a few carnival games and shared snacks, enjoying the carefree energy of the day. But as they walked through the park, something else caught Ino's eye. A large, eerie-looking building with fake cobwebs, flickering lights, and creepy music playing from inside. "The Horror City," Ino read aloud from the sign at the entrance. "A haunted house?" Naruto glanced at it, then back at Ino. "You're not scared, are you?" Ino smirked, though there was a hint of nervousness in her voice. "I'm not scared. Are you?" Naruto puffed out his chest. "Of course not. Let's go." They entered the haunted house together, stepping into the dimly lit, fog-filled corridors. Every few steps, something jumped out from the shadows. Ghosts, zombies, and creepy clowns. Each time, Ino and Naruto found themselves clutching each other in fear, only to laugh at their reactions afterward. At one point, a particularly lifelike zombie lunged at them from behind a corner. Ino yelped, instinctively grabbing onto Naruto's arm and pulling him closer. Naruto, startled by both the zombie and Ino's sudden grip, blushed deeply as he felt her pressing against him. "Ino-chan," Naruto stammered, trying to keep his composure. "It's just a guy in a costume." Ino realized how tightly she was holding onto Naruto and quickly let go, her face flushing with embarrassment. Sorry. I wasn't expecting that." They continued through the haunted house, but each scare seemed to bring them closer together. By the time they made it to the exit, both of them were laughing and blushing, embarrassed by how much they had clung to each other. "Okay, that was scarier than I thought," Ino admitted, brushing her hair out of her face as they stepped back into the daylight. Naruto nodded in agreement, still catching his breath. "Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be that intense." Ino looked at him and smiled, feeling more relaxed than she had in days. "But it was fun. Thanks for bringing me here, Naruto-kun." Naruto smiled back, his heart swelling with warmth. "Anything for you, Ino-chan." It seems you're looking for a specific scene where Ino's father, along with the man who reported her whereabouts, is unaware that Naruto is a policeman and is mistakenly planning to take her back tonight. Here's a rewrite of the scene with that premise, focusing on the suspense and the looming danger of Ino's father's plan. ####Chapter 12. A father's wrath and a looming threat. In the dimly lit house, the air was thick with tension. The worn-out table in the center of the room was cluttered with empty bottles, cigarette butts, and crumpled papers. Ino's father sat slouched in his chair, a menacing expression on his face. His fingers drummed against the table, the ticking of the nearby clock grating on his nerves. It had been over a month since his daughter had disappeared, and the frustration of not finding her gnawed at his insides like a persistent itch. He was ready to explode. All his plans, to sell her to a brothel for a high price, were slowly unraveling. His mind was consumed with thoughts of revenge and profit. The innocence Ino possessed made her a valuable asset, and her disappearance meant lost money. But now, he was ready to take matters into his own hands. Suddenly, a knock at the door echoed through the empty room. The sound was sharp, and Ino's father stood up immediately, his dark eyes narrowing as he approached the door. He wasn't expecting visitors at this hour, but he had sent word to a few contacts to track down his daughter. Maybe they had finally brought him some useful information. The door creaked open, revealing a man standing in the shadows of the hallway. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his face partially hidden beneath a hood. His presence oozed intimidation, and the grim look on his face told Ino's father that he wasn't here for pleasantries. "You got something for me?" Ino's father demanded, his voice rough and impatient. The man stepped into the room, pulling back his hood to reveal a weathered face and cold eyes. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper, tossing it onto the table without a word. Ino's father snatched it up, unfolding it quickly to reveal a recent photo of Ino walking down the street. Her long blonde hair was unmistakable, and there she was, alive and well. But that wasn't what caught his attention. Beside her in the photo was a young man. Tall, blonde, confident. His arm was close to hers as if protecting her, and they seemed to be smiling together. The man beside her wasn't someone Ino's father recognized, but the way they walked side by side made his blood boil. "Who the hell is this?" Ino's father spat, slamming the photo onto the table. His face twisted with rage as he glared at the image. "Who's this guy with her?" The man who had delivered the photo shrugged, his voice calm and detached. "That's the man she's been living with. They've been seen together around town. Don't know much about him, but he's always with her. They seem close." Ino's father clenched his fists, the veins in his neck bulging with anger. His mind raced with all the worst possibilities. Asterisk, has she been with him all this time? Has this guy touched her? Asterisk, the idea made him sick to his stomach. He had planned to sell her purity to the highest bidder, and if this man had taken that away from him, "I swear to God," he muttered, pacing angrily, "if he's laid a finger on her." The man watching him raised an eyebrow, clearly unaffected by the outburst. "From what I've seen, they're close. Very close. He's protective of her." Ino's father slammed his fist on the table, rattling the empty bottles. "I'll kill him. I'll kill them both if I have to." The man gave him a cold, assessing look. "You might want to think twice about that." Ino's father stopped pacing and glared at him. "What do you mean?" The man shrugged again. "I've been watching them. That guy? He's no regular civilian. He's not someone you want to mess with." "What are you talking about?" Ino's father demanded, growing more impatient. "Who is he?" The man stepped forward, lowering his voice. "He's a cop, but he's been off duty lately. That means he's a little more vulnerable than usual. You still want to go after her?" Ino's father paused, his thoughts swirling. "A cop? That complicated things. The last thing he wanted was to bring the law down on his head. But this cop, this young man, was off duty, which meant he was just another person when the badge wasn't on him. He wasn't invincible. So, what if he's a cop? Ino's father hissed, his anger still boiling just beneath the surface. I don't care who he is. I'm taking her back. Tonight. The man's expression remained neutral. Do whatever you want. Just know that if you go after a cop, even an off-duty one, you better be ready for the consequences. Ino's father sneered, gripping the photo tightly in his fist. I don't care. I'll get her back, and I'll make sure she pays for running away. I'll make sure that cop knows not to get in my way. The man gave a slight nod, turning to leave. Do what you want. Just remember, you've been warned. Cops have friends, even off-duty ones. As the door clicked shut behind the man, Ino's father stood in the middle of the room, staring down at the photo of his daughter. His rage hadn't subsided. In fact, it had grown tenfold. But now, there was a plan forming in his mind. He would strike tonight. He would get her back, take her away from this young policeman, and make her pay for running away. Hashtag back at the amusement park. Laughter amidst fear. Meanwhile, back at the amusement park, Naruto and Ino had finally made their way through the various rides, games, and food stalls. It was nearly sunset, and the golden light of the evening sun bathed the park in a warm glow. For a brief moment, Ino had forgotten all about her worries, enjoying her time with Naruto. As they walked toward the Ferris wheel, Ino caught Naruto looking at her with a soft smile. What are you smiling at, Naruto-kun? She asked playfully, her heart fluttering at the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. Just thinking how nice it is to see you smile, Ino-chan, Naruto replied, his voice genuine. It's been a tough few weeks, but today feels right. Ino felt a pang of warmth and guilt. Naruto had done so much for her, and yet, deep down, the fear of her father still lurked in her chest. She hadn't told Naruto everything, hadn't explained just how dangerous her father could be. And as much as she wanted to believe that she was safe here, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. As they neared the Ferris wheel, a group of girls ran past them, giggling and laughing. One of them accidentally bumped into Ino, causing her to stumble slightly. Naruto quickly caught her, his hand steady on her arm. Are you okay? He asked, concern flashing across his face. Ino nodded, her smile faltering slightly as the ominous feeling returned. She glanced around the park, her heart beating a little faster. The laughter and the joy of the amusement park suddenly felt distant, like she was watching it all from the outside. Yeah, I'm fine, she whispered, but her voice lacked the confidence it had carried earlier. Naruto noticed the change in her demeanor and frowned. Ino-chan, what's wrong? Ino hesitated, biting her lip. She wanted to tell him. She wanted to open up about the fear gnawing at her, about the feeling in her gut that her father was getting closer. But she didn't want to ruin the day, and she didn't want Naruto to worry more than he already was. It's nothing, she said, forcing a smile. Let's just enjoy the rest of the day. Naruto wasn't entirely convinced, but he nodded, wrapping his arm around her shoulders protectively. All right, but if something's bothering you, you can always tell me, okay? Ino nodded, leaning into his side as they walked toward the Ferris wheel. But as they boarded the ride and the cart began its slow ascent into the sky, Ino couldn't help but glance over her shoulder, as if expecting to see her father lurking into this chapter. The looming threat of Ino's father comes closer as he plots to take her back, unaware that Naruto is not just any young man but a skilled policeman. Meanwhile, Ino and Naruto share a. I understand you're looking for an intense and dramatic scene involving Naruto, Ino, and her father. However, a single scene that extends to 6,000 words is quite lengthy for a typical narrative structure, especially in a single interaction. I'll provide a detailed, emotional, and engaging scene, but I would recommend that you build upon this with more inner monologue, descriptive detail, or other character interactions to lengthen it if moonlight filtered through the thin clouds above as Naruto and Ino walked down the quiet streets. The amusement park had been a much-needed break from the heavy burdens they both carried, but now, in the stillness of the night, that dark sense of dread crept back into Ino's mind. Naruto noticed it almost immediately. Her soft laugh from earlier had faded, her grip on his arm had tightened, and her steps slowed as they approached the apartment. Her once joyful demeanor was gone, replaced by a palpable sense of anxiety that filled the air between them. "Ino-chan," Naruto spoke softly, turning his head to look at her. His blue eyes softened with concern as they locked with hers. "Is everything okay?" Ino opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. A knot had formed in her throat, and her heart raced. She wanted to tell him about the ominous feeling that had been haunting her for days, the nightmare that kept replaying in her mind. Her father finding her, dragging her back into a life of torment. But she didn't want to worry him, not after everything he'd already done for her. So, she swallowed the fear, forcing a small smile. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice wavering just enough to betray her. Naruto frowned slightly, sensing there was more she wasn't saying, but he didn't push her. He knew Ino well enough by now. If she wasn't ready to talk, he wouldn't force her. He gave her hand a reassuring squeeze and resumed walking. They were only a block away from their apartment when Ino felt it. That presence. The dark, suffocating presence that she had hoped she would never feel again. She froze, her entire body tensing up as she spotted the shadowy figure standing beneath the dim glow of the street lamp. Her breath caught in her throat, and her fingers dug into Naruto's arm. He followed her gaze, his eyes narrowing as they landed on the figure emerging from the shadows. The man was tall and broad, his face twisted into a cruel sneer. His clothes were tattered, his eyes glinting with malicious intent. Ino's heart dropped into her stomach as recognition hit her like a punch to the gut. It was her father, the man who had tormented her for years, the man who had made her life a living hell, now stood before her. His gaze locked onto her like a predator stalking its prey. "There you are," her father's voice growled, each word laced with venom. His eyes flicked from Ino to Naruto, sizing him up before settling back on his daughter. "Thought you could hide from me, huh? Thought you could run off with some boy and forget all about me?" Ino trembled, instinctively stepping closer to Naruto, her hand gripping his jacket tightly. Her voice was barely a whisper, shaking with fear. "Naruto, please, don't let him take me." Naruto's entire demeanor changed in an instant. His blue eyes, usually warm and kind, hardened as he stepped in front of Ino, positioning himself between her and her father. His jaw clenched, and his muscles tensed as he prepared for what he knew was coming. "You need to leave," Naruto said, his voice cold and calm, but there was an unmistakable edge of warning in his tone. His hand remained at his side, but he subtly shifted his stance, ready to spring into action if needed. He had his gun concealed, but he didn't want to draw it unless absolutely necessary. Ino's father laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "Leave? Oh no. I'm not going anywhere without her. She's coming with me." He took a step forward, his eyes flashing with anger. "Paniga Teninia Savara. Bordelima Teninia Savara. I'll sell her, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." Ino's body trembled violently at his words. She had always feared this day, the day her father would find her and force her back into a life of misery. Worse, to sell her like some object to the highest bidder. Naruto's eyes darkened with fury, though his expression remained calm. "You're not taking her," he said firmly, his voice as sharp as steel. "Not now. Not ever." Her father's eyes narrowed, a twisted smile spreading across his face. "You think you can protect her from me, boy? You don't know what I'm capable of. I've done things you couldn't even imagine." Naruto's hand subtly moved closer to his concealed gun, but he didn't draw it just yet. He didn't need to escalate things if he could handle it another way. "I've dealt with men like you before," he said coldly, his voice low and dangerous, "and they all ended up behind bars." That struck a nerve. Ino's father sneered, reaching into his coat. In a flash, he pulled out a gleaming knife, the blade catching the light of the street lamp. "You think you're tough, huh? You think you can stop me?" Naruto's heart raced, but his face remained composed. He shifted slightly, his body ready to move. "This is your last chance," Naruto warned, his voice cold as ice. "Drop the knife and walk away." But Ino's father wasn't listening. He lunged at Naruto with the knife, his movements fueled by rage and desperation. Ino screamed, her voice filled with terror. But Naruto was faster. With a swift movement, Naruto sidestepped the attack, his hand flying out toward his concealed pouch. In an instant, a burst of flames shot from his hand, wrapping around Ino's father like a serpent of fire. The man cried out in shock and pain as the flames burned his clothes. But Naruto controlled the fire carefully. It didn't burn him severely, only enough to subdue him. The flames dissipated quickly, leaving Ino's father on the ground, gasping for air, his knife clattering to the pavement. Naruto wasted no time. He quickly pulled out a pair of handcuffs from his pocket, snapping them around the man's wrists before he could recover. "It's over," Naruto said coldly, his voice calm but authoritative. He stood over Ino's father, his blue eyes hard and unforgiving. "You're going to jail, and you'll never hurt Ino again." But before he could respond, Ino, overwhelmed by the sudden violence and the fear that had been building inside her for so long, swayed on her feet. Her vision blurred, and her legs gave out beneath her as her mind succumbed to the shock. "Ino!" Naruto cried out, turning just in time to catch her before she hit the ground. He cradled her gently in his arms, his heart pounding in his chest as he held her close. She had fainted, her face pale, her body limp from the stress of it all. For a moment, Naruto stood frozen, torn between wanting to comfort Ino and finishing the arrest. But his instincts kicked in, and he quickly hoisted her into his arms, holding her protectively as he turned his attention back to her father, who was still writhing on the ground in defeat. "You're done," Naruto said, his voice quiet but filled with conviction. "You'll never get near her again." With Ino safe in his arms, Naruto reached for his phone, quickly dialing the police station for backup. It didn't take long before the sound of sirens filled the air, and within minutes, officers arrived on the scene, taking Ino's father into custody. Naruto handed over the details of the arrest, giving a full report of what had happened. His tone remained professional, but inside, his thoughts were entirely on Ino. Once the officers had taken her father away, Naruto gently carried Ino back to their apartment. He laid her down on the couch, brushing a stray lock of blonde hair away from her face as he knelt beside her, waiting for her to wake up. Chapter 13. Healing in the wake of trauma. Ino woke slowly, her body feeling heavy as she blinked against the harsh white light overhead. For a moment, everything was a blur. Shapes, colors, sounds all merging together in a fog. Then, as her vision cleared, the sterile smell of antiseptic and the quiet hum of medical equipment filled her senses. She realized she was in a hospital. Her heart raced as panic gripped her chest. She could feel the 4-line attached to her arm, the cold sensation of the fluid seeping into her veins. But there was something far worse gnawing at her mind. The events of the previous night came crashing down on her like a wave. Her father, he had found her. He had threatened to take her, to sell her to a brothel, to sell her virginity as if she were nothing more than an object. Ino's breath hitched, her body trembling violently as the reality of it all sank in. Her own father. How could he? The room was empty, and her heart ached with an overwhelming sense of isolation. She needed Naruto. Where was he? Tears welled up in her eyes, her chest tightening with fear and sorrow. "In Naruto," she whispered, her voice weak and hoarse. But there was no response, only the steady beeping of the heart monitor and the distant murmur of voices from the hallway. Ino's tears spilled over, cascading down her cheeks as she sobbed quietly. The thought that her father had wanted to sell her, to strip away her dignity and her freedom, was too much to bear. She covered her face with her hands, her body trembling as she cried harder. What kind of monster would do that to their own child? Ino felt herself spiraling, her emotions a storm of sadness, fear, and betrayal. She had always known her father was cruel, but this was unimaginable. And yet, it had almost happened. If Naruto hadn't been there, if he hadn't saved her. Her sobs grew louder, her entire body shaking as the weight of the trauma pressed down on her. She felt utterly lost, adrift in a sea of despair with no anchor to hold on to. Just as she thought she might drown in her grief, the door to her room creaked open, and she heard the familiar sound of footsteps. Her heart leaped, and she looked up, tears blurring her vision. It was Naruto. He stood in the doorway, his expression a mixture of concern and sadness. His eyes softened the moment they met hers, and without a word, he rushed to her side. "Ino-chan," Naruto whispered, his voice filled with warmth and reassurance. He reached out, gently wiping away her tears with the pad of his thumb. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that." Ino's lip trembled as more tears fell. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words wouldn't come. All she could do was shake her head, the enormity of the situation overwhelming her once again. Naruto sat on the edge of the bed, taking her hand in his. His grip was firm but comforting, a reminder that she wasn't alone, that he was here, by her side, just like he had promised. "We caught him," Naruto said softly, his voice calm and steady. "Your father. He's in jail now. He's never going to hurt you again." Ino's breath caught in her throat as his words sank in. Her father was in jail? For life? She blinked through her tears, her mind struggling to comprehend what that meant. He was gone. Really gone. She would never have to live in fear of him again. But even as that realization dawned on her, it didn't erase the pain. The trauma of knowing what he had planned for her, what he had been willing to do, still weighed heavily on her heart. And now, with everything laid bare, all Ino could feel was an overwhelming sense of grief for the father she had never had. Her voice cracked, her throat tight with emotion. I always wished I had a father who loved me, someone who would protect me, someone who cared." Naruto's chest tightened as he listened to her speak. He had known Ino had suffered at the hands of her father, but hearing her broken, vulnerable voice express those long-held desires shattered his heart. "Ino-chan," Naruto murmured, his voice filled with tenderness. He reached out, pulling her into a gentle embrace, his arms wrapping around her protectively. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that, but you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'll always be here." Ino buried her face in Naruto's chest, her sobs muffled against his shirt as she clung to him. His warmth surrounded her, comforting her in a way she hadn't felt in years. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't feel scared. She didn't feel alone. She felt safe, truly safe, in Naruto's arms. They stayed like that for what felt like hours, Naruto holding her while she cried, whispering words of comfort and reassurance. Slowly, the storm of emotions began to settle, and Ino's breathing steadied. She pulled back slightly, looking up at Naruto with tear-filled eyes. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she whispered, her voice still shaky but filled with gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Naruto smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You don't have to thank me, Ino-chan. I'm just glad you're safe." Ino managed a small smile, though her heart still ached with the weight of everything that had happened. But in that moment, with Naruto by her side, she knew she wasn't facing it alone. And that made all the difference. After a moment, Naruto stood up, a playful glint in his eyes as he reached into a bag he had brought with him. "I've got something for you." Ino blinked in surprise, watching as Naruto pulled out a beautifully arranged tray of food. The scent of grilled fish and savory vegetables filled the room, and her stomach growled in response. "I figured you could use something to eat," Naruto said with a grin, placing the tray on the bedside table. "This is all for you, Ino-chan." Ino's eyes widened in surprise, her cheeks flushing with warmth. "And Naruto-kun, you didn't have to do this." Naruto chuckled, sitting down beside her again. "Of course I did. You've been through a lot. You deserve something nice." Ino blushed, feeling a wave of affection for him wash over her. Naruto had always been kind and thoughtful, but this was something else. She couldn't believe how lucky she was to have someone like him in her life. Naruto picked up a piece of fish with a fork and held it out to her. "Here, try this. I made sure they cooked it just the way you like." Ino's face turned an even deeper shade of red as she hesitantly opened her mouth, letting Naruto feed her the bite of fish. The rich, savory flavor melted on her tongue, and she couldn't help but smile. "It's really good," Ino admitted, her voice soft. Naruto beamed, clearly pleased with her response. "I'm glad you like it." They continued like that for a while, Naruto feeding Ino bite after bite, his smile never fading. Ino felt her heart swell with every act of kindness, every gentle touch of his hand. And though she was still processing the trauma of what had happened, she found solace in Naruto's presence, in the way he cared for her so deeply. After they finished eating, Ino leaned back against the pillows, feeling more relaxed than she had in days. She glanced at Naruto, who who was cleaning up the tray with a satisfied grin on his face. Naruto-kun, Ino began, her voice hesitant. Naruto looked up, his eyes meeting hers. Without thinking, Ino reached out, grabbing his wrist and pulling him closer. Before he could react, she leaned in, pressing her lips to his in a soft, tender kiss. Naruto froze, his heart skipping a beat as the warmth of her lips sent a rush of emotions through him. When Ino pulled back, her cheeks were flushed, and she couldn't meet his eyes. "Thank you for everything." Naruto, still stunned, blinked a few times before a bright red blush spread across his face. Ino-chan." Ino smiled shyly, her heart fluttering as she watched him stumble over his words. "You're amazing, Naruto-kun. I don't know how I got so lucky." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, his blush deepening. "I'm the lucky one, Ino-chan." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had happened still lingering, but there was a sense of peace between them now. A shared understanding that no matter what came next, they would face it together. "Ino-chan," Naruto said after a while, breaking the. As the morning light filtered through the hospital window, Naruto entered Ino's room with a bright smile on his face. Ino, still resting in bed, looked up to see him carrying a small bag. She could see the excitement in his eyes, and it made her feel a little more at ease after everything that had happened. "Ino-chan," Naruto started, his voice soft yet full of energy, "I brought something for you." Ino sat up slightly, curious. "What is it, Naruto-kun?" Naruto approached the bed, holding out the bag. "I got your discharge papers. You're going home today," he said with a grin. "And I also bought you some new clothes to wear." Ino's eyes lit up at the thought of leaving the hospital, the dull weight in her chest lifting slightly. She hadn't been outside in days, and the idea of being free from the sterile environment of the hospital filled her with hope. "You really didn't have to do that, Naruto," Ino said, her cheeks turning a soft shade of pink. She took the bag from him and smiled, genuinely touched by his thoughtfulness. "Of course I did," Naruto replied, his tone lighthearted but sincere. "You deserve to feel good, Ino-chan." Before she could respond, the doctor entered the room, giving Naruto a nod as he walked over to Ino's bedside. He carefully removed the 4 from her arm, checking her vitals one last time before giving her the all-clear. "You're all set, Miss Yamanaka. You're healthy and good to go." Ino beamed at the news, and her gaze immediately shifted to Naruto. She was ready to leave this chapter behind and move forward with a fresh start. Naruto stood up, ready to give her some privacy to change, but just as he reached for the door handle, Ino's soft voice stopped him. "Naruto-kun, wait." He turned around, surprised by the hesitation in her voice. Ino stood there holding the clothes he had brought, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I'm still feeling a little weak. Could you help me change?" Naruto's face turned a deep shade of red. He hadn't expected that request, and he wasn't sure how to respond. Are you sure?" Ino nodded, her face just as red. "I can't manage it alone." Naruto scratched the back of his head, his nerves getting the better of him. "Okay, if you need help, then sure. No problem." He walked back over to her, trying his best to keep his composure. As he helped Ino into her new clothes, his movements were careful and respectful, his face burning with embarrassment the entire time. Ino, equally shy, tried to hide her blush, grateful for his gentle touch and kind heart. Once she was dressed, Naruto stepped back, breathing a sigh of relief. "There you go," he said with a sheepish smile. "All set." "Thank you, Naruto-kun," Ino whispered, her gratitude clear in her eyes. They left the hospital together, and as they walked through the parking lot, Naruto took Ino's hand in his, giving her the support she needed. The simple gesture made Ino feel safe, like everything would be okay as long as Naruto was by her side. As they drove away, the city streets passing by in a blur, Ino stared out the window, her mind filled with a whirlwind of emotions. She had been through so much, and yet here she was, alive, free, and with someone who cared deeply for her. After a few moments of silence, she turned to Naruto, her voice quiet and filled with uncertainty. "Naruto-kun, why do you care so much about me?" Naruto glanced over at her, his expression softening. "What do you mean?" Ino looked down at her hands, her fingers fidgeting nervously in her lap. We barely knew each other before all of this. I'm just a girl you found in a cemetery. You didn't have to go out of your way for me." Naruto remained silent for a moment, his eyes focused on the road ahead. Then, with a deep breath, he spoke, his voice filled with sincerity. "Ino-chan, from the moment I saw you that night, I knew I couldn't leave you behind. There was something in your eyes, something that told me you needed someone to be there for you." Ino's heart clenched at his words, the vulnerability she had been hiding for so long rising to the surface. "I couldn't just stand by and let you face everything alone," Naruto continued, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I don't know why, but something inside me just clicked. I wanted to protect you." Tears welled up in Ino's eyes, her chest tightening with emotion. "Naruto-kun," she whispered, her voice trembling. Naruto glanced at her, his expression soft. "And the truth is, Ino-chan, I think I've fallen for you." Ino's breath hitched, her heart pounding in her chest. What?" Naruto reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "My mom gave this to me a long time ago. She told me to give it to the girl I love when I was ready. And well, I think I'm ready." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace, the pendant shaped like a small flower. It was simple, but beautiful, and it took Ino's breath away. "Naruto-kun, I don't know what to say," Ino whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Naruto smiled softly, reaching out to gently fasten the necklace around her neck. His fingers brushed against her skin, sending a shiver down her spine. "You don't have to say anything," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to know how I feel." Ino reached up, her fingers trembling as they touched the pendant. Her heart swelled with emotion, and she couldn't hold back her tears any longer. "I love you too, Naruto-kun," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "From the moment you found me in the cemetery, from the moment you saved me from the cold, I knew I loved you." Naruto's eyes widened in surprise, his heart racing. "Ino-chan." Ino smiled through her tears, her hand reaching out to take his. "You're kind, strong, brave, everything I've ever wanted. But most of all, you have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. And that's what I love most about you." Naruto blushed deeply, his face turning a bright shade of red. I don't know what to say." Ino giggled, leaning in to press a gentle kiss to his cheek. "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me one thing." Naruto looked at her, his eyes full of affection. "What is it?" Ino's smile softened, her eyes sparkling with love. "Promise me you'll always be mine. No other girl, just me." Naruto chuckled, his heart feeling light. "I promise, Ino-chan. It's only you. Always." With that, Ino leaned in and kissed him softly on the lips, her heart overflowing with love for the boy who had saved her, who had cared for her, and who had shown her what it meant to be truly loved. As they pulled away, both of them were blushing furiously, but neither could stop smiling. The car ride continued in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined as they drove toward the next chapter of their lives together. It was a peaceful evening. The sun had set, leaving behind a sky streaked with shades of orange and pink. Naruto and Ino were sitting together on the balcony of Naruto's apartment, a gentle breeze brushing against their faces as they gazed out at the village below. The stars were just starting to appear, twinkling faintly in the growing darkness. Naruto's apartment wasn't particularly big, but the view from the balcony was something special. From there, you could see the entire village of Konoha, the rooftops glowing with the soft lights of lanterns and homes. It was a quiet, tranquil place, perfect for the peaceful moment they were sharing. Ino sat close to Naruto, her hand resting lightly in his, her fingers intertwined with his. They had been through so much together recently, and the bond between them had only grown stronger with each passing day. There was a certain comfort in the silence between them, a mutual understanding that didn't require words. But tonight, Ino felt a nervous flutter in her chest. She had been thinking about it for a while now, ever since Naruto had confessed his feelings to her in the car. She had felt so much warmth and joy at his words, but there was something she hadn't yet fully said in return. She glanced over at Naruto, who was leaning back in his chair, his eyes closed as he soaked in the evening air. His blonde hair, tousled slightly by the wind, glowed faintly under the light of the stars. There was a peacefulness in his expression, a quiet strength that always made her feel safe. Her heart beat a little faster. "Naruto-kun," she began softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Naruto opened his eyes and turned to look at her, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "What's up, Ino-chan?" Ino bit her lip, her cheeks flushing slightly. She had never been the shy type, not really. But when it came to Naruto, she found herself feeling a little more vulnerable, a little more unsure of what to say. She had grown so close to him, and she wanted to say what was on her mind, but it was harder than she thought. I wanted to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling just a little. Naruto's smile softened, and he leaned in closer, giving her his full attention. "You can tell me anything, Ino-chan. You know that." Ino nodded, feeling a surge of affection for him. How could he be so kind, so understanding all the time? It was one of the things she loved most about him. She paused, searching for the right words. "I wanted to say that I really like you, Naruto-kun." Naruto blinked, his cheeks turning a soft shade of pink. You do?" Ino nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "Yes, I do. I've liked you for a long time now, even before everything that happened. But ever since you saved me, ever since you took care of me, I realized that my feelings are even stronger than I thought." Naruto's face turned an even deeper shade of red, and he looked down at their hands, still intertwined. I like you too, Ino-chan," he said, his voice quiet but full of sincerity. I know that I've fallen in love with you." Ino's heart skipped a beat at his words, her eyes widening in surprise. She had always hoped he felt the same, but hearing him say it, hearing him confess his love, was something entirely different. Before she could stop herself, she leaned in, closing the small gap between them, and pressed her lips to his. It was a gentle kiss, soft and sweet, filled with all the affection and emotion they had been holding back. Naruto froze for a moment, caught off guard, but then he melted into the kiss, his hand tightening around hers as he kissed her back, just as softly. When they pulled away, both of them were blushing furiously, their hearts racing. I didn't expect that," Naruto said with a nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck in his usual awkward way. "But I'm not complaining." Ino giggled, her face still flushed. "I've been wanting to do that for a while." Before Naruto could respond, a voice from below interrupted them. Well, look at that. Naruto finally got himself a girlfriend." Both Naruto and Ino turned in unison, their eyes widening in shock as they looked down at the street below. One of the villagers, a man they both vaguely recognized, was standing there with a grin on his face, waving up at them. Naruto's face turned an even deeper shade of red. It's not like that," he stammered, waving his hands in protest. But the villager only laughed, shaking his head. Sure. You two enjoy your date," the man called, walking off with a chuckle. Naruto and Ino turned to each other, their faces burning with embarrassment. Ino let out a nervous laugh, her hand covering her mouth. "I can't believe that just happened," Naruto groaned, running a hand through his hair. "I swear, I can't go anywhere without someone embarrassing me." The morning sun shone brightly over Konoha as Naruto and Ino made their way to the Hokage's office, hand in hand. Ever since they had confessed their feelings for each other, they had been inseparable. The village streets were bustling with activity, but for Naruto and Ino, it felt like they were in their own little world, walking together with soft smiles on their faces. As they approached the Hokage Tower, Ino glanced up at Naruto, her cheeks flushing slightly. She still wasn't used to the way her heart fluttered every time she was near him. His presence gave her a sense of comfort and security she hadn't felt in a long time. "Are you sure we're not going to get in trouble for being late?" Ino asked, her voice laced with amusement. Naruto chuckled, squeezing her hand gently. "Tsunade-chan knows we've had a lot going on. Besides, you're with me, so it's all good." Ino smiled, but before she could say anything, they heard a familiar voice calling out to them from behind. "Hey, Naruto." Ino. They turned around to see Sakura running up to them, a mischievous grin on her face. She stopped in front of them, placing her hands on her hips as she caught her breath. "You two look awfully cozy," Sakura teased, winking at Ino. Ino blushed, looking away for a moment, but Naruto just laughed. "What can I say? We're happy." Sakura's grin widened. "So, Did you guys, She trailed off, raising an eyebrow playfully. Both Naruto and Ino froze, their faces turning bright red at the implication of Sakura's words. What? Naruto stammered, his voice an octave higher than usual. How did you? I mean, no. We didn't. Sakura burst out laughing, clearly enjoying their embarrassment. Relax, Naruto. I was just teasing. Ino, still blushing furiously, glared at her friend. Sakura, I told you not to say anything, she whispered angrily. Sakura shrugged, unbothered by Ino's reaction. I couldn't help it. You called me last night, and I figured, why not ask? Ino crossed her arms, still red with embarrassment, while Naruto scratched the back of his head, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation. Before the situation could get more awkward, Shikamaru appeared out of nowhere, his usual bored expression on his face. What's all the commotion? Shikamaru asked lazily, raising an eyebrow at the trio. Sakura smirked, giving him a playful nudge. Just asking Naruto and Ino if they've, gotten closer. Shikamaru blinked, clearly unfazed by Sakura's teasing. Oh? So, have you two? Naruto's face turned beet red again, and he groaned in frustration. Not you too, Shikamaru. Can we please change the subject? Shikamaru shrugged, a hint of a smirk on his lips. Whatever you say, Naruto. Ino, feeling completely mortified, grabbed Naruto's hand and began to pull him toward the office. Come on, Naruto. Let's go before someone else starts asking embarrassing questions. Naruto nodded, eager to escape the situation, and they quickly made their way up the stairs to the Hokage's office. However, as they reached the top, they found themselves face to face with Tsunade herself, who was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, a curious look on her face. Well, Tsunade said, eyeing them both with interest. What's this I hear about you two? Naruto nearly tripped over his own feet, his face burning with embarrassment yet again. Tsunade-bachan, it's not what you think. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a smirk. Oh really? Because it sounds to me like things are getting pretty serious between you two. Ino, still holding Naruto's hand, could feel her heart pounding in her chest. It's not like that, Lady Tsunade, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tsunade chuckled, clearly enjoying the discomfort she was causing. I'm just teasing, Ino. But seriously, Naruto, take good care of her. And Ino, trust me, Naruto's got the perfect body to keep you happy. Naruto and Ino's faces turned an even deeper shade of red, and they both stood there, completely flustered. Before either of them could respond, they heard a familiar voice from inside the office. You two are really making this easy for me. Naruto and Ino turned around to see Sasuke sitting at the desk, holding his baby daughter, Sarada, in his arms. He raised an eyebrow at them, a smirk playing on his lips. Naruto groaned, feeling completely outnumbered. Not you too, Sasuke. Sasuke shrugged, bouncing Sarada gently in his lap. Just wondering when you two are going to hurry up and have a kid. Sarada needs someone to play with. Sarada giggled, reaching out her tiny hand toward Naruto and Ino, her innocent laughter only making the situation more embarrassing. Ino, her face still red with embarrassment, buried her face in Naruto's shoulder, unable to handle any more teasing. Naruto sighed, shaking his head. I swear, I can't go anywhere without being teased. Sasuke chuckled, clearly enjoying himself. Better get used to it, Naruto. It's only going to get worse from here. Naruto shot him a glare, but there was no real anger behind it. Despite all the teasing, he knew his friends were just happy for him and Ino. After a few more awkward moments, Naruto and Ino finally managed to escape the Hokage's office, making their way to Naruto's own office to get some work done. Ino was still holding onto Naruto's hand, her heart still racing from all the teasing. Why does everyone keep asking us that? Ino muttered under her breath, her cheeks still warm. Naruto chuckled, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. They're just teasing. Don't worry about it. Ino sighed, leaning against Naruto as they walked. I just wasn't expecting everyone to be so nosy. Naruto smiled, wrapping his arm around her shoulders as they entered his office. Me neither. But I guess that's just how our friends are. As they sat down in the office, the teasing finally behind them, Ino looked over at Naruto, her heart swelling with affection for him. Despite all the embarrassment and awkward moments, she wouldn't trade any of it. Being with Naruto made everything feel right. "Hey, Naruto-kun," Ino said softly, reaching out to take his hand again. Naruto looked at her, his blue eyes warm and filled with affection. "Yeah, Ino-chan?" Ino smiled, her heart feeling light. "I love you." Naruto's face softened, and he leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I love you too, Ino-chan." As the day went on, Naruto and Ino worked together, side by side, knowing that no matter how much teasing they had to endure from their friends, their bond would only grow stronger. And nothing, not even the nosiest of questions, could change that. The streets of the city were bustling with life as Naruto and Ino walked side by side, hand in hand. The soft hum of cars and motorcycles passing by created a familiar backdrop to their quiet stroll. It was a beautiful day, with the golden sun casting a warm glow on the buildings, and the cool breeze gently swaying the trees lining the sidewalks. Naruto had always enjoyed these moments with Ino, where the world seemed to slow down just enough for them to enjoy each other's company. The memory of how they met was still fresh in his mind. That fateful night when he found her in the cemetery, tears streaming down her face after her father had thrown her out. Since then, they had grown closer, and Naruto couldn't imagine his life without her now. Ino, on the other hand, was still adjusting to the idea of being with someone who genuinely cared for her. After years of feeling unloved and unwanted by her own father, Naruto's kindness was like a breath of fresh air. He had saved her, both physically and emotionally, and she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude and affection for him. As they walked, Ino tightened her grip on Naruto's arm, feeling safe and content. But there was something in the air today, something that made her feel uneasy, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Ahead of them, standing near a small cafe, was a girl with long dark hair and soft, innocent features. She was staring at them, her eyes filled with an emotion that Ino recognized all too well: sadness. It was Hinata, a quiet and reserved girl who had always harbored feelings for Naruto, though she had never had the courage to tell him. She had known Naruto since they were in school together, and from afar, she had admired him, loved him, but had never found the words to express those feelings. And now, seeing him with another girl, holding hands and smiling, it felt like her heart was breaking into pieces. Hinata's eyes followed Naruto and Ino as they walked closer, and her chest tightened with every step they took. She wanted to look away, to hide her tears, but she couldn't. All she could do was stand there, watching the boy she loved walk away with someone else. Ino noticed the girl staring at them, and her instincts kicked in. She didn't know this girl, but she could sense the pain and longing in her eyes. There was a moment of silent understanding, a realization that this girl, whoever she was, had feelings for Naruto. Sakura, who had become one of Ino's closest friends recently, had mentioned someone named Hinata before. A quiet girl who, according to Sakura, had always had a soft spot for Naruto but never acted on her feelings. Ino had brushed it off at the time, thinking it was just a crush, but now, seeing the look on this girl's face, she knew it was something deeper. Without thinking, Ino moved closer to Naruto, slipping her arm more tightly around his and resting her head on his shoulder. She didn't mean to be cruel, but a part of her wanted to send a message, a silent declaration that Naruto was hers. She had fought too hard for her place in his life, and she wasn't about to let anyone take that from her. Naruto, oblivious to the silent exchange between the two girls, continued talking about something funny that had happened at work earlier that day. He was always so full of energy and joy, and Ino loved that about him. But right now, her thoughts were elsewhere. Hinata's eyes widened as she saw Ino move closer to Naruto. It was as if her worst fears were being confirmed right before her eyes. She felt her heart shatter, and without another word, she turned and hurried away, her tears blurring her vision as she ran down the street. Naruto, noticing the movement out of the corner of his eye, furrowed his brow in confusion. "Hey, wasn't that Hinata?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. She looked upset. Ino's heart raced as she quickly tried to come up with an explanation. She didn't want Naruto to go after Hinata, didn't want him to get caught up in whatever feelings she had for him. "Oh, I don't think it's anything, Naruto-kun," she said, forcing a smile. She probably just had a rough day. You know how people can get sometimes. Naruto frowned, still looking in the direction Hinata had run off to. Yeah, but she seemed really upset. Maybe I should. No. Ino interrupted, her voice sharper than she intended. She immediately softened her tone, trying to hide the panic rising in her chest. I mean, she'll be fine. Trust me. Let's not ruin our day, okay? Naruto looked at her, still unsure, but eventually nodded. Yeah, you're probably right. I just hope she's okay. Ino sighed in relief as they continued walking, though the guilt gnawed at her. She didn't want to be selfish, but she also couldn't stand the thought of losing Naruto to someone else, especially not someone like Hinata, who had been in love with him for so long. Ino wasn't going to let that happen. Hashtag Hinata's heartbreak. Elsewhere, Hinata had finally stopped running. She found herself in a quiet alleyway, far from the bustling streets, where no one could see her. Leaning against the wall, she pressed her hands to her chest, trying to hold back the sobs that threatened to escape. Why hadn't she said anything? Why hadn't she told Naruto how she felt all those years ago? She had always been too shy, too afraid of rejection. And now, because of her silence, she had lost him. Tears streamed down her face as she thought of all the moments they could have shared, all the things she wanted to say but never could. She had always admired him from afar, hoping that one day he would notice her. But that day had never come, and now it was too late. I'm so stupid, she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. I should have told him. I should have, but it didn't matter anymore. Naruto had moved on, and he was happy with someone else. Ino, the girl with the bright smile and confident attitude, had won his heart, and Hinata was left with nothing but her unspoken feelings. As she stood there, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs, Hinata realized that she had no one to blame but herself. She had waited too long, and now she would have to live with the consequences of her silence. Hashtag Naruto and Ino's bond. Back on the main street, Naruto and Ino continued their walk, though the mood had shifted slightly. Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but he trusted Ino when she said it was nothing to worry about. As they reached a small cafe, Ino stopped, turning to Naruto with a soft smile on her face. Naruto-kun, can we sit down for a bit? Naruto blinked, surprised by the sudden request, but nodded. Yeah, of course. They found a quiet table near the back of the cafe, away from the crowds. Ino sat down first, and Naruto joined her, his eyes still filled with concern for Hinata. But Ino knew how to distract him. She reached across the table, taking his hand in hers, her thumb gently tracing circles on his skin. Naruto-kun, she began softly, her voice filled with emotion. I just want to thank you for everything. Naruto looked at her, confused. Thank me? For what? Ino smiled, her heart swelling with affection for him. For being there for me. For saving me when I had no one. You found me when I was at my lowest, and you gave me a reason to keep going. I don't think I've ever told you how much that means to me. Naruto's expression softened, and he squeezed her hand gently. Ino-chan, you don't have to thank me. I'm just glad I was there when you needed me. Ino's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of happiness this time. You've changed my life, Naruto. I don't know where I'd be without you. Naruto smiled, leaning across the table to press a gentle kiss to her forehead. I feel the same way about you, Ino-chan. You make me want to be a better person. For a moment, they sat in silence, just holding hands and enjoying the peace of the moment. But there was one more thing Ino needed to say, one more truth she needed to share. Naruto-kun, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I think I'm in love with you. I love you too, Naruto-kun, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Naruto smiled, leaning in to kiss her gently on the lips. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Ino-chan. As they sat there, their love finally out in the open. Ino knew that no matter what challenges they faced, they would face them together. Naruto was hers, and she was his. And nothing, not even the ghosts of the past, could change that. Hashtag a night to remember. The evening sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, slowly giving way to the dark blues of night as the sun began to set. Naruto stood by the window of his small apartment, his reflection barely visible against the darkening cityscape outside. Tonight was a big night. He had been invited to a prestigious event, a formal gathering at a luxurious hotel where many influential people would be present. It was the kind of event that would make anyone nervous, but Naruto wasn't worried about himself. It was Ino. Since the day he had found her crying in the cemetery, Naruto had done everything in his power to make sure she felt safe and cared for. The bond between them had grown stronger with every passing day, and he had invited her to the event tonight, hoping it would help her gain more confidence in social situations. But he knew how difficult it would be for her. Ino suffered from social anxiety, something that made gatherings like this a challenge. As he adjusted the cufflinks on his sleek black suit, Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the bedroom door. It was Ino. "Naruto-kun?" she called softly from the other side, her voice laced with nervousness. "Can I come in?" "Of course, Ino-chan," Naruto replied, smiling even though she couldn't see him. He turned toward the door, watching as it slowly creaked open. Ino stepped inside, and Naruto's breath caught in his throat. She was dressed in a stunning evening gown he had bought her just a few days ago. A flowing midnight blue dress that hugged her figure in all the right places, elegant and graceful. Her long blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing her face perfectly. She looked nervous, biting her lower lip as she adjusted the dress, clearly uncomfortable with all the attention she was about to receive. "You look amazing," Naruto managed to say, his voice filled with awe. He had seen her many times before, but tonight, she was breathtaking. Ino blushed deeply, her eyes darting to the floor as she fidgeted with her hands. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, but I don't know if I can do this." Naruto walked over to her, gently taking her hands in his. "You can, Ino-chan. I'll be with you the whole time. We've been out together plenty of times, and tonight will be no different. You've come so far." Ino took a deep breath, nodding slightly as she allowed herself to relax in his presence. I've never been to a party like this before. I'm not good with crowds." "I know," Naruto said softly, giving her hands a reassuring squeeze. "But we'll take it one step at a time. If you feel overwhelmed, we'll leave. I won't push you to do anything you're not comfortable with." Ino smiled at his words, her heart swelling with gratitude. Ever since they had met, Naruto had been nothing but kind and patient with her, helping her face her fears without judgment. Tonight was no different. "Okay," Ino whispered. "I trust you." Naruto grinned, his blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "That's my girl. Now, let's get going before we're late." As they made their way to the front door, Naruto noticed the slight tremble in Ino's hand as she held onto his arm. He offered her another reassuring smile, and together they stepped out into the cool evening air. The streets were relatively quiet, with only the occasional sound of a passing car or distant chatter from nearby apartments. As they approached Naruto's car, a couple of their neighbors happened to be outside, chatting amongst themselves. One of them, a middle-aged man with a mischievous grin, called out as he spotted the two of them walking hand in hand. Well. Looks like Naruto finally found himself a girlfriend," the man teased, causing the small group to laugh in good-natured fun. Naruto's cheeks flushed bright red, and he scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Yeah, something like that," he mumbled, clearly embarrassed. Ino's face turned a similar shade of red, and she instinctively tightened her grip on Naruto's arm, hiding her face behind his shoulder. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, and the teasing only made her more anxious. "Ignore them," Naruto whispered to her as they hurried to the car. "They're just messing around." Ino nodded, though her heart was still racing. Once they were safely inside the car, she let out a shaky breath, trying to calm herself down. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, looking out the window. Naruto glanced at her, his expression softening. "What are you sorry for?" "For being like this," Ino admitted. "For always getting so nervous around people. I must seem so weak to you." Naruto's heart ached at her words, and he reached over to gently take her hand in his. "You're not weak, Ino-chan. You're one of the strongest people I know. What you've been through, most people wouldn't have survived that. But you did. You're still here, and that makes you strong." Ino blinked back tears, touched by his words. She had never thought of herself as strong, not after everything she had endured. But hearing Naruto say it with such conviction made her feel like maybe, just maybe, he was right. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she whispered, squeezing his hand. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, Naruto said with a smile as he started the car. Now, let's go have some fun. The drive to the hotel was quiet, but not uncomfortable. Ino stared out the window, watching the city pass by as she tried to calm her nerves. Naruto had a way of making her feel safe, even when everything around her seemed overwhelming. She glanced over at him, her eyes softening as she took in his appearance. He was dressed in a sharp black suit that made him look incredibly handsome, his blonde hair neatly styled, and his blue eyes focused on the road ahead. His skin, pale and smooth, seemed to glow in the dim light of the dashboard. She couldn't help but smile at the sight of him. He had always been kind-hearted and genuine, and over time, her feelings for him had grown deeper than she had ever expected. She had never imagined herself falling in love, especially not after everything she had gone through with her father, but Naruto had changed that. When they finally arrived at the hotel, the valet took the car, and Naruto helped Ino out, holding her hand as they walked toward the grand entrance. The building was stunning, with large glass windows that reflected the city lights, and a red carpet leading up to the doors where guests were already arriving. Ino's heart raced as they approached the entrance, the noise of the crowd inside reaching her ears. But Naruto, ever the reassuring presence, gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "Remember," he whispered, "I'm right here with you." Ino nodded, taking a deep breath as they stepped inside. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow over the room, and elegantly dressed guests mingled and laughed as waiters in crisp uniforms passed around trays of champagne. For a moment, Ino felt like she was in a dream. She had never been to a place like this before, never imagined she would be part of something so glamorous. But the thought of being surrounded by so many people made her stomach twist with anxiety. Naruto noticed her hesitation and leaned down to whisper in her ear, "Hey, let's take it slow. We don't have to rush into anything. We can just find a quiet spot and sit down for a bit, okay?" Ino nodded, grateful for his understanding. Together, they made their way to a quieter corner of the room, where a small table had been set up near the back. Ino sat down, feeling a little more at ease now that they were away from the main crowd. As they sat together, Naruto kept the conversation light, talking about their plans for the weekend and joking about some of the people they had seen on the way in. His relaxed demeanor helped Ino feel more comfortable, and soon enough, she found herself laughing along with him, the tension in her chest slowly melting away. After a while, Naruto stood up and extended his hand toward her. "Wanna dance?" Ino hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. I don't know how." "That's okay," Naruto said with a smile. "I'll teach you. Just follow my lead." With a deep breath, Ino took his hand, allowing him to guide her onto the dance floor. The music was slow and soft, the perfect backdrop for their first dance together. Naruto placed one hand on her waist and took her other hand in his, gently swaying to the rhythm of the music. At first, Ino felt awkward and unsure, but Naruto's calm presence helped her relax. Slowly, she began to move with him, following his lead as they danced together under the shimmering lights of the ballroom. For the first time that night, Ino felt like she belonged, like she was part of something beautiful. As the song came to an end, Naruto pulled her close, his arms wrapped around her in a protective embrace. "You did great, Ino-chan," he whispered, his voice filled with warmth. Ino blushed, resting her head against his chest. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, for everything." Naruto smiled, gently kissing the top of her head. "I'm just glad you're here with me." As they stood there, holding each other in the middle of the dance floor, Ino realized that no matter what happened, she would always have Naruto by her side. And for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. The cool evening breeze brushed against Naruto's face as he and Ino stepped out of the car, the soft sound of city traffic fading into the background. In front of them loomed the grand entrance of one of the city's most luxurious hotels. Golden lights illuminated the entrance, giving the entire building a warm and inviting glow. Naruto turned to Ino, his blue eyes twinkling with excitement. "Ready for this, Ino-chan?" Ino, dressed in an elegant midnight blue dress that hugged her form perfectly, gave a small, nervous smile. She wasn't used to events like this, especially not in such a fancy setting. With her history of social anxiety, large gatherings often left her feeling out of place, but Naruto's constant support had helped her gain confidence. "As ready as I'll ever be," she responded softly, clutching Naruto's arm a little tighter. They walked together toward the entrance, where a smartly dressed man stood waiting to greet them. His eyes flickered with recognition as they landed on Naruto. "Ah, Mr. Uzumaki. It's a pleasure to see you here tonight. You're quite the celebrity these days." Naruto laughed lightly, scratching the back of his head in his usual embarrassed manner. "I guess word travels fast." The man's eyes then shifted to Ino, who stood by Naruto's side, slightly blushing and clearly nervous. Her hands gripped Naruto's arm as if it were her lifeline. The man smiled warmly. "And who's this lovely young lady? Is she your date for the evening?" Naruto glanced at Ino, who was clearly feeling the pressure of being the center of attention. Her cheeks reddened, and she looked down, avoiding eye contact. Naruto sensed her discomfort immediately. "Yes," Naruto said, his voice kind but firm. "This is Ino Yamanaka." He paused for a moment, thinking about the future. Then, with a soft smile, he added, "She's my future wife." Ino's eyes widened in surprise, her face turning a deep shade of red. She hadn't expected Naruto to say something so bold, especially in front of someone they had just met. But there was warmth in his voice, and the way he looked at her made her feel safe. The anxiety that had been bubbling inside her seemed to fade, replaced by a sense of comfort. The hotel owner chuckled and nodded approvingly. "Well, congratulations to the both of you. You make a lovely couple." Ino, still flustered, gripped Naruto's arm even tighter as they were led inside. The grand lobby of the hotel was breathtaking. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft, golden glow over the marble floors. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, moved gracefully around the room, chatting, laughing, and sipping champagne. As they entered the ballroom, Naruto leaned down and whispered in Ino's ear, "Don't worry, I'm right here. We'll just take it slow, okay?" Ino nodded, her heart still racing, but Naruto's presence reassured her. She smiled up at him, grateful that he always knew exactly how to calm her nerves. They found a quiet table near the edge of the room where they could sit and watch the event unfold without being in the center of attention. Ino, still blushing from the earlier interaction, tried to settle her thoughts. She glanced around the room, taking in the lavish decorations, the soft music playing in the background, and the elegantly dressed guests who seemed completely at ease. Naruto, sensing that Ino was still feeling a bit out of place, leaned closer. "You look amazing tonight, you know that?" Ino blushed again, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her dress. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. I'm not used to places like this." Naruto chuckled. "Neither am I. But hey, we're in this together. And besides, I wouldn't want to be here with anyone else." Ino's heart fluttered at his words. Despite her nerves, she felt a sense of warmth and security being by his side. She glanced at Naruto, who looked incredibly handsome in his sharp black suit, his blonde hair neatly styled. His confidence, his kindness, and the way he always knew how to make her feel special. It was all overwhelming in the best possible way. As they sat together, enjoying the ambience, a few people came over to greet Naruto, congratulating him on his recent successes. Ino listened quietly, offering polite smiles, but mostly observing how effortlessly Naruto interacted with everyone. He had a natural charm about him, one that drew people in, and it made her feel proud to be by his side. However, every now and then, she would catch glimpses of some of the women at the party casting curious glances their way. She couldn't help but feel a bit self-conscious, wondering if they were silently judging her. She leaned in closer to Naruto, seeking reassurance. "Naruto-kun, do you think they're staring at us?" Naruto looked around, noticing the occasional glances, but shrugged it off. "Maybe they're just jealous because I'm here with the most beautiful girl in the room." Ino's face turned a deeper shade of red, but she couldn't help but smile at his words. Even in a room full of glamorous people, Naruto always made her feel like she was the only one who mattered. After a while, the hotel owner returned, this time with a mischievous grin on his face. He had clearly been drinking a little, his demeanor more relaxed than before. He leaned in closer to Naruto, speaking in a low voice. "So, Naruto," he began, his tone teasing, "I have to ask, have you two, sealed the deal yet?" Naruto's face instantly turned beet red. What?" he stammered, clearly caught off guard by the question. Ino, too, was utterly mortified, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She had never expected such a personal question from someone they had just met. She quickly looked away, trying to hide her face as she clung to Naruto's arm. The hotel owner laughed heartily, clearly finding amusement in their reaction. "Come on, I'm just messing with you. You two seem perfect for each other, that's all." Naruto, still flustered, managed a nervous laugh. Yeah, thanks. I guess." Seeing how embarrassed Ino was, Naruto stood up and extended his hand toward her. "Come on, Ino-chan. Let's get some fresh air." Grateful for the excuse to escape the awkward situation, Ino quickly took his hand, and the two of them made their way out of the ballroom. As soon as they were out of earshot, Ino let out a sigh of relief. "I can't believe he asked that," she mumbled, her face still flushed. Naruto chuckled, though he was equally embarrassed. "Yeah, that was unexpected." They stepped out onto the hotel's terrace, where the cool night air provided a welcome contrast to the warmth of the ballroom. The terrace overlooked the city, with twinkling lights stretching out as far as the eye could see. It was peaceful here, away from the noise and the crowd. Ino leaned against the railing, taking a deep breath as she tried to calm her racing heart. Naruto stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her back. "You okay?" he asked softly. Ino nodded, though her heart was still pounding. "Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know how to handle situations like that." Naruto smiled, his hand moving to gently stroke her hair. "You handled it just fine, Ino-chan. And hey, no matter what happens, I've always got your back." Ino turned to face him, her eyes softening as she looked up at him. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, for everything." Without thinking, she leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, her heart skipping a beat as she did so. Naruto blushed but smiled warmly at her, his heart swelling with affection. "I'm the one who should be thanking you," he said quietly. "You've made everything better just by being here." For a moment, they stood there in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling around them as they shared a quiet, intimate moment. It didn't matter that they were at a fancy event, surrounded by important people. All that mattered was that they were together. An unforgettable night. The evening sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, slowly giving way to the deep blue of the night as the sun began to set. Naruto stood by the window of his small apartment, his reflection barely visible against the dark cityscape outside. Tonight was a big night. He had been invited to a prestigious event, a formal gathering at a fancy hotel, where many influential people would be in attendance. This was the kind of event that would make anyone nervous, but Naruto wasn't worried about himself. It was Ino. Ever since the day he found her crying at the cemetery, Naruto had done everything he could to make sure she felt safe and cared for. Their bond had grown stronger with each passing day, and he had invited her to tonight's event, hoping that it would help her gain more confidence in social situations. But he knew how difficult it would be for her. Ino suffered from social anxiety, which made gatherings like this a challenge. As he adjusted the cufflinks on his elegant black suit, Naruto's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the bedroom door. It was Ino. "Naruto-kun," she called softly from the other side, her voice tinged with tension. "Can I come in?" "Of course, Ino-chan," Naruto replied, smiling even though she couldn't see him. He turned to the door, watching it slowly open. Ino walked in, and Naruto's breath caught in his throat. She was wearing a stunning evening gown he had bought her just a few days ago. A loose, dark blue dress that hugged her body in all the right places, elegant and graceful. Her long, blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing her face perfectly. She looked nervous, biting her lower lip as she adjusted the dress, clearly uncomfortable with all the attention she was about to receive. "You look stunning," Naruto managed to say, his voice filled with awe. He had seen her many times before, but tonight, she was breathtaking. Ino blushed deeply, her eyes cast to the ground as she fiddled with her hands. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, but I don't know if I can do this." Naruto walked over to her, gently taking her hands in his. "You can, Ino-chan. I'll be with you all the time. We've been out together so many times, and tonight will be no different. You've come a long way." Ino took a deep breath, nodding slightly as she allowed herself to relax into his presence. I've never been to a party like this before. I'm not good with crowds." "I know," Naruto said quietly, squeezing her hands reassuringly. But we'll take it one step at a time. If you feel overwhelmed, we'll leave. I won't push you into doing anything you're not comfortable with. Ino smiled at his words, her heart filling with gratitude. Ever since they met, Naruto had been nothing but kind and patient with her, helping her face her fears without judgment. Tonight was no different. Okay, Ino whispered. I trust you. Naruto smiled, his blue eyes shining with excitement. That's my girl. Now, let's go before we're late. The cool evening breeze brushed against Naruto's face as he and Ino stepped out of the car, the soft sound of city traffic fading into the background. In front of them loomed the grand entrance of one of the city's most luxurious hotels. Golden lights illuminated the entrance, giving the entire building a warm and inviting glow. Naruto turned to Ino, his blue eyes twinkling with excitement. Ready for this, Ino-chan? Ino, dressed in an elegant midnight blue dress that hugged her form perfectly, gave a small, nervous smile. She wasn't used to events like this, especially not in such a fancy setting. With her history of social anxiety, large gatherings often left her feeling out of place, but Naruto's constant support had helped her gain confidence. As ready as I'll ever be, she responded softly, clutching Naruto's arm a little tighter. They walked together toward the entrance, where a smartly dressed man stood waiting to greet them. His eyes flickered with recognition as they landed on Naruto. Ah, Mr. Uzumaki. It's a pleasure to see you here tonight. You're quite the celebrity these days. Naruto laughed lightly, scratching the back of his head in his usual embarrassed manner. I guess word travels fast. The man's eyes then shifted to Ino, who stood by Naruto's side, slightly blushing and clearly nervous. Her hands gripped Naruto's arm as if it were her lifeline. The man smiled warmly. And who's this lovely young lady? Is she your date for the evening? Naruto glanced at Ino, who was clearly feeling the pressure of being the center of attention. Her cheeks reddened, and she looked down, avoiding eye contact. Naruto sensed her discomfort immediately. Yes, Naruto said, his voice kind but firm. This is Ino Yamanaka. He paused for a moment, thinking about the future. Then, with a soft smile, he added, she's my future wife. Ino's eyes widened in surprise, her face turning a deep shade of red. She hadn't expected Naruto to say something so bold, especially in front of someone they had just met. But there was warmth in his voice, and the way he looked at her made her feel safe. The anxiety that had been bubbling inside her seemed to fade, replaced by a sense of comfort. The hotel owner chuckled and nodded approvingly. Well, congratulations to the both of you. You make a lovely couple. Ino, still flustered, gripped Naruto's arm even tighter as they were led inside. The grand lobby of the hotel was breathtaking. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a soft, golden glow over the marble floors. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, moved gracefully around the room, chatting, laughing, and sipping champagne. As they entered the ballroom, Naruto leaned down and whispered in Ino's ear, "Don't worry, I'm right here. We'll just take it slow, okay?" Ino nodded, her heart still racing, but Naruto's presence reassured her. She smiled up at him, grateful that he always knew exactly how to calm her nerves. They found a quiet table near the edge of the room where they could sit and watch the event unfold without being in the center of attention. Ino, still blushing from the earlier interaction, tried to settle her thoughts. She glanced around the room, taking in the lavish decorations, the soft music playing in the background, and the elegantly dressed guests who seemed completely at ease. Naruto, sensing that Ino was still feeling a bit out of place, leaned closer. "You look amazing tonight, you know that?" Ino blushed again, her hands fidgeting with the edge of her dress. "Thank you, Naruto-kun. I'm not used to places like this." Naruto chuckled. "Neither am I. But hey, we're in this together. And besides, I wouldn't want to be here with anyone else." Ino's heart fluttered at his words. Despite her nerves, she felt a sense of warmth and security being by his side. She glanced at Naruto, who looked incredibly handsome in his sharp black suit, his blonde hair neatly styled. His confidence, his kindness, and the way he always knew how to make her feel special. It was all overwhelming in the best possible way. As they sat together, enjoying the ambience, a few people came over to greet Naruto, congratulating him on his recent successes. Ino listened quietly, offering polite smiles, but mostly observing how effortlessly Naruto interacted with everyone. He had a natural charm about him, one that drew people in, and it made her feel proud to be by his side. However, every now and then, she would catch glimpses of some of the women at the party casting curious glances their way. She couldn't help but feel a bit self-conscious, wondering if they were silently judging her. She leaned in closer to Naruto, seeking reassurance. "Naruto-kun, do you think they're staring at us?" Naruto looked around, noticing the occasional glances but shrugged it off. "Maybe they're just jealous because I'm here with the most beautiful girl in the room." Ino's face turned a deeper shade of red, but she couldn't help but smile at his words. Even in a room full of glamorous people, Naruto always made her feel like she was the only one who mattered. After a while, the hotel owner returned, this time with a mischievous grin on his face. He had clearly been drinking a little, his demeanor more relaxed than before. He leaned in closer to Naruto, speaking in a low voice. "So, Naruto," he began, his tone teasing, "I have to ask, have you two, sealed the deal yet?" Naruto's face instantly turned beet red. What?" he stammered, clearly caught off guard by the question. Ino, too, was utterly mortified, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She had never expected such a personal question from someone they had just met. She quickly looked away, trying to hide her face as she clung to Naruto's arm. The hotel owner laughed heartily, clearly finding amusement in their reaction. "Come on, I'm just messing with you. You two seem perfect for each other, that's all." Naruto, still flustered, managed a nervous laugh. Yeah, thanks. I guess." Seeing how embarrassed Ino was, Naruto stood up and extended his hand toward her. "Come on, Ino-chan. Let's get some fresh air." Grateful for the excuse to escape the awkward situation, Ino quickly took his hand, and the two of them made their way out of the ballroom. As soon as they were out of earshot, Ino let out a sigh of relief. "I can't believe he asked that," she mumbled, her face still flushed. Naruto chuckled, though he was equally embarrassed. "Yeah, that was unexpected." They stepped out onto the hotel's terrace, where the cool night air provided a welcome contrast to the warmth of the ballroom. The terrace overlooked the city, with twinkling lights stretching out as far as the eye could see. It was peaceful here, away from the noise and the crowd. Ino leaned against the railing, taking a deep breath as she tried to calm her racing heart. Naruto stood beside her, his hand resting gently on her back. "You okay?" he asked softly. Ino nodded, though her heart was still pounding. "Yeah, I'm fine. I don't know how to handle situations like that." Naruto smiled, his hand moving to gently stroke her hair. "You handled it just fine, Ino-chan. And hey, no matter what happens, I've always got your back." Ino turned to face him, her eyes softening as she looked up at him. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, for everything." Without thinking, she leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek, her heart skipping a beat as she did so. Naruto blushed but smiled warmly at her, his heart swelling with affection. "I'm the one who should be thanking you," he said quietly. "You've made everything better just by being here." For a moment, they stood there in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling around them as they shared a quiet, intimate moment. It didn't matter that they were at a fancy event, surrounded by important people. All that mattered was that they were together. The evening air was crisp as Naruto and Ino stepped out of the car, hand in hand, outside the Grand Hotel where the event was taking place. The city lights sparkled like stars, illuminating the busy streets. Ino, dressed in a sleek, elegant dress that accentuated her graceful figure, felt her heart racing. It wasn't the fancy event that made her nervous. It was being with Naruto, her feelings for him growing stronger with each passing day. Naruto, in a well-fitted black suit, smiled at her. His blonde hair was perfectly styled, his blue eyes gleaming with excitement and affection. He sensed her nervousness and gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "Ino-chan, don't worry. You look amazing. We're going to have a great time." Ino blushed, her gaze dropping momentarily. I've never been to anything like this before. What if I mess up? What if people judge us?" Naruto stopped walking and turned to face her, his hands gently holding hers. "Ino, you've been through so much already. There's nothing to worry about here. It's just you and me tonight. If anything happens, I'm here. I've got your back always." His words, simple yet sincere, had a way of calming her nerves. Ino smiled, her heart feeling lighter. "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Together, they walked into the hotel, greeted by the soft glow of chandeliers and the hum of conversation. As they made their way to the ballroom, Ino couldn't help but notice the stares from some of the guests, especially the women. They whispered among themselves, clearly envious of the beautiful couple entering the room. Ino blushed but kept her focus on Naruto, who seemed completely unfazed by the attention. A few minutes after they arrived, the music in the ballroom shifted to a slower, more intimate tune. Couples moved to the dance floor, swaying gently in each other's arms. Naruto, with a grin on his face, turned to Ino and extended his hand. "Shall we?" Ino hesitated. She wasn't much of a dancer, and the thought of everyone watching them made her anxious. But Naruto's warm smile and comforting presence gave her the courage she needed. "Okay," she whispered, placing her hand in his. Naruto led her to the dance floor, pulling her close as they began to move to the rhythm of the music. At first, Ino was stiff, her body tense with nerves. But as Naruto held her and whispered gentle reassurances in her ear, she started to relax. The world around them seemed to fade away, and for a few moments, it felt like it was just the two of them, lost in the music. As they danced, Ino found herself gazing up at Naruto, captivated by his charm and confidence. His every movement was graceful and natural, and she couldn't help but admire how comfortable he seemed in every situation. It made her feel safe, like nothing could go wrong as long as she was with him. "You're a really good dancer, Naruto-kun," Ino said, her voice soft but full of admiration. Naruto chuckled. "You're not so bad yourself, Ino-chan. See? I told you we'd have a good time." Ino smiled, her anxiety melting away completely. "I guess I just needed you to pull me onto the dance floor." They continued to dance, their bodies moving in sync with the music. It was as if they were in their own little world, where nothing else mattered but the way they felt about each other. However, not far from the dance floor, hidden in the shadows, Hinata stood watching. She had come to the event, hoping to get a glimpse of Naruto. She had admired him for years, her love for him deep and unwavering. But as she watched Naruto and Ino dancing so closely, her heart broke into 1,000 pieces. Hinata had never been able to tell Naruto how she truly felt. Her shy nature had always held her back, and now it seemed like it was too late. Naruto was happy with Ino. They looked perfect together. Ino's blonde beauty and Naruto's bright, charming presence complemented each other in a way that Hinata couldn't deny. Tears welled up in Hinata's eyes as she watched them kiss, their connection undeniable. It felt like someone had ripped her heart out and crushed it. She had always dreamed of being the one in Naruto's arms, but now that dream was slipping away, further and further out of reach. Unable to bear the sight any longer, Hinata turned and fled the ballroom, tears streaming down her face. She ran through the hotel lobby and out into the cool night air, her heart aching with every step. She had lost her chance, and now she was left with nothing but regret. Back inside, Naruto and Ino broke away from their kiss, both blushing deeply. They hadn't meant to get caught up in the moment, but the emotions of the evening had overwhelmed them. "I can't believe we just did that," Ino said, her face flushed with embarrassment and joy. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck, a sheepish grin on his face. "Yeah, I guess we got a little carried away." As they looked around, they noticed some of the guests had been watching them, a few even snapping photos with their phones. Ino's face turned an even deeper shade of red, and she quickly grabbed Naruto's hand. "Let's get out of here before we embarrass ourselves even more," she said, laughing nervously. Naruto chuckled and nodded. Agreed. Hand in hand, they made their way out of the ballroom, weaving through the crowd of onlookers. Once they were outside, they both let out a sigh of relief, the cool air calming their racing hearts. "I didn't expect tonight to turn out like this," Ino admitted as they walked to Naruto's car. Naruto smiled at her, squeezing her hand. "Neither did I, but I wouldn't change a thing." Ino looked up at him, her heart swelling with affection. "Me neither." They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, before Ino leaned up and kissed Naruto softly on the lips. It wasn't a kiss filled with passion or heat, but one filled with love and gratitude. She was thankful for him, for everything he had done for her, for how he made her feel, and for how he had changed her life in ways she never thought possible. Naruto returned the kiss, his arms wrapping around her waist as he held her close. He didn't need words to express how much he cared for her. Everything he felt for her was in that kiss. When they finally pulled away, Naruto smiled and brushed a strand of hair behind Ino's ear. "I love you, Ino-chan." Ino blushed, her heart skipping a beat. "I love you too, Naruto-kun." With that, they got into Naruto's car and drove off into the night, the city lights twinkling around them like stars. The night had been unexpected, filled with emotions they hadn't anticipated, but it had brought them closer than ever before. And as they drove through the quiet streets, hand in hand, they both knew that this was just the beginning of something truly special. In a peaceful countryside, Naruto and Ino walked hand in hand, with the warm sun gently shining down on them. The air was fresh, filled with the soft hum of nature, as Naruto led Ino through a quiet, hidden path. He stopped suddenly, a playful smile on his face, and said, "Okay, Ino-chan, close your eyes. I have a surprise for you." Ino, a bit hesitant but trusting, closed her eyes. Her heart raced slightly, more from the excitement of being with Naruto in such a quiet, intimate moment than from the mystery itself. Naruto gently placed his hands over her eyes, guiding her carefully forward. Ino could feel her cheeks flushing, and with a slight giggle, she asked, "Naruto-kun, where are we going? You're making me nervous." Naruto chuckled softly, trying to hide his own nervousness. "Just a little further. I promise it'll be worth it." After a few more steps, they finally stopped. "Okay, Ino, you can open your eyes now." As Naruto slowly removed his hands from her face, Ino blinked a few times, adjusting to the light. When her vision cleared, her breath caught in her throat. Before her lay an endless field of flowers, a breathtaking ocean of colors stretching out as far as her eyes could see. Roses, daisies, sunflowers, lilies, all blooming in perfect harmony. The vibrant colors danced in the gentle breeze, creating a sight so beautiful that it felt almost magical. Ino's eyes widened with pure joy. She let out an excited laugh, immediately running into the field, her fingers grazing the tops of the flowers as she moved. "Oh my gosh, Naruto, this is incredible. I know all these flowers, every single one." She twirled around, her heart full of happiness as she admired the beauty around her. "These are my favorites." Naruto stood back, watching her with a fond smile on his face. He leaned against a tree, arms crossed, feeling a warmth inside him that had nothing to do with the sunlight. Ino looked so carefree, so in her element. She was truly happy, and that made him happy too. After a few moments, Ino turned to Naruto, her cheeks slightly flushed from all the running around. "You really know how to pick a place, don't you?" she teased. Naruto scratched the back of his head, his grin growing wider. "I noticed how much you love flowers, Ino. So, I thought, well, this might be the perfect spot for today." Ino's smile softened, her heart fluttering at his words. She walked back toward him, feeling touched by the thoughtfulness behind his gesture. "Thank you, Naruto. This really means a lot to me." Naruto's expression grew a bit more serious, and Ino could see that there was something on his mind. He glanced away, his hand slipping into his pocket. "Actually, Ino, there's another reason I brought you here." Ino tilted her head, curious. "Oh? What is it?" Naruto swallowed hard, suddenly feeling incredibly nervous. His palms were sweaty, and his heart was pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Well, I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I didn't know how to say it." He slowly knelt down on one knee, pulling out a small, intricately designed box from his pocket. Ino's breath hitched as she realized what was happening. Her hand instinctively flew to her mouth, her eyes beginning to fill with tears. Naruto, his voice shaky but full of emotion, opened the box to reveal a stunning gold ring, a delicate yet elegant design that sparkled in the sunlight. "Ino, from the moment we've been together, you've made me feel things I didn't even know were possible. You make every day brighter, just like these flowers. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, making you as happy as you've made me. So, Ino, will you marry me?" His voice cracked slightly at the end, and his cheeks were burning red from embarrassment, but the sincerity in his words was undeniable. Ino stood there, completely overwhelmed with emotion. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she tried to find the right words. She had dreamed of this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for how much it would mean to her in reality. With her heart full of love, she nodded, her voice trembling. "Yes, Naruto, yes. I want to be with you forever. You make me so happy. I can't imagine my life without you." Naruto's face lit up with relief and joy. He gently took her hand, sliding the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it was always meant to be there. He stood up, still holding her hand, and kissed it tenderly, his eyes shining with happiness. Ino, unable to contain her emotions any longer, threw her arms around Naruto and kissed him deeply, her tears mixing with laughter. The world around them seemed to fade away as they held each other. Lost in the moment, Naruto held her tightly, his heart full to bursting. He had never felt more complete, more sure of anything in his life. As they stood there, surrounded by the beauty of the flower field, they knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. A future full of love, happiness, and endless adventures awaited them. As they pulled apart slightly, Ino rested her forehead against his, smiling through her tears. "Thank you, Naruto," she whispered, her voice full of love. "Thank you for everything." Naruto grinned, his usual playful spark returning. "Hey, I wasn't going to let you get away that easily." They both laughed, the sound echoing through the field, blending with the gentle rustle of the flowers and the soft song of the breeze. And in that moment, everything was perfect. The morning sunlight filtered through the windows of the police precinct as Naruto and Ino walked in together. It had only been a day since Naruto had proposed, and the excitement still hung in the air. Ino's fingers played with the new ring on her hand, feeling its smooth surface as they entered the office. "Hey, you too," a familiar voice called out. Sakura leaned against the wall, her eyes immediately catching the glint of the ring on Ino's finger. With a mischievous smirk, she approached. "Finally. So, did you two, do it yet?" Ino's face turned a shade of pink as she quickly shook her head. "No, Sakura, it's not like that," she stammered. Naruto, standing next to her, rubbed the back of his head, chuckling. "Yeah, come on, Sakura. We're taking things slow." Sakura grinned, but then softened her tone. "I'm just teasing. Honestly, I'm so happy for you guys. It's about time." She pulled Ino into a hug, and then turned to Naruto, punching him playfully on the shoulder. "Take care of her, all right?" Naruto grinned. "You bet. I mean, I'm her fiancé now, so I better step up." As they chatted, Tsunade walked by, catching sight of the little group. "What's all the commotion here?" She glanced at Ino's hand and immediately saw the ring. Well, it's about time someone tied this idiot down." Tsunade smirked at Naruto, who blushed slightly under her teasing. "Thanks, Granny Tsunade," Naruto muttered, clearly embarrassed but grateful. "Congratulations," Tsunade added more sincerely, offering them a rare smile before continuing down the hallway. With everyone offering their congratulations, Naruto and Ino finally made it to his desk. Naruto sat down, pulling out files and starting on his work for the day. Ino sat across from him, watching as he focused on the paperwork. She found herself mesmerized by how serious he looked. For all his goofy and loud personality, Naruto was surprisingly diligent when it came to his job. As the minutes passed, Ino rested her chin on her hand, her eyes never leaving Naruto. She admired him, not just for his dedication, but for the way he made her feel safe and loved. Their engagement had happened quickly, but Ino felt more sure of this than anything else in her life. Suddenly, the door opened and Hinata entered, holding a small stack of reports. She smiled softly at Naruto as she approached his desk, but the moment her eyes fell on Ino's hand, her heart dropped. "Hey, Hinata," Naruto said cheerfully, looking up from his work. "What's up?" Hinata handed him the documents, her smile faltering slightly as she noticed the ring gleaming on Ino's finger. The realization hit her hard. She had known about Naruto and Ino's relationship, but seeing that ring made it feel more real, more final. "Nothing, Naruto-kun," Hinata whispered, her voice trembling slightly. She quickly looked away from Ino's hand, trying to steady her emotions. Naruto noticed the change in her demeanor. "Are you sure? You don't look okay," he asked, concern evident in his voice. Hinata forced a smile, shaking her head. "No, I'm fine. Really." But her voice was barely above a whisper, and Naruto wasn't convinced. Before he could say anything else, Hinata turned and hurried out of the office, her steps quickening as she left the building. Ino, who had been silent during the exchange, watched Hinata's retreating figure. Her heart sank, realizing the unspoken feelings Hinata still carried for Naruto. The guilt gnawed at her. She had always known, deep down, about Hinata's feelings, but seeing it unfold like this made it all too real. Ino reached out and gently took Naruto's hand, her voice soft. "Naruto, I'm the only one for you, right?" Her heart raced as she waited for his response, her fingers trembling slightly as they held his. Naruto looked at her, surprised by her sudden question. He squeezed her hand gently, offering her a reassuring smile. "Of course, Ino-chan. You're my one and only." Ino blushed deeply, feeling a warmth spread through her. She nodded, letting out a small, relieved breath. But outside, Hinata was running. Her chest felt tight as tears streamed down her face. She found a quiet spot outside the precinct, her body trembling as she tried to keep the sobs inside. She had always known Naruto wasn't hers. He had chosen Ino, the girl who was beautiful, confident, and full of life. But knowing that didn't make it any less painful. Hinata wiped at her tears, trying to pull herself together. "I'm happy for him. I'm happy," she whispered to herself, but the ache in her heart said otherwise. She had never told Naruto how she truly felt, and now it was too late. Outside the precinct, Sakura noticed Hinata sitting on a bench, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her body was trembling, and it didn't take long for Sakura to understand why. She had always known about Hinata's unspoken love for Naruto, but seeing her in this much pain was heartbreaking. "Hinata," Sakura said softly, approaching her friend. "It's okay to cry." Hinata tried to wipe her tears quickly, embarrassed to be caught, but the flood of emotions was too much. She shook her head, her voice breaking. I couldn't tell him, Sakura. All these years, I never had the courage. And now, it's too late." Sakura sat beside her, placing a comforting arm around her shoulder. "Hinata, you've always been so kind and selfless. You deserve to be happy too." But Hinata only sobbed harder, her heart aching with regret. "I was too shy, too scared. I let all these years pass without saying anything, and now, Naruto is with Ino. He's happy, and I'm just here alone." Sakura's own heart clenched at Hinata's words. She knew how it felt to love someone from afar, to watch them be with someone else, and to feel powerless. "Hinata," she whispered, "love doesn't always happen the way we want it to. But that doesn't mean you won't find someone who will make you just as happy." Hinata's sobs quieted, but tears still streamed down her face. Sakura gently pulled her into a hug. "You'll find someone, Hinata. Someone who will see you for the amazing person you are." Hinata sniffled against Sakura's shoulder, but the ache in her heart remained. Despite her friend's words, the pain of unrequited love was still fresh and raw. After a while, Sakura pulled back, wiping a tear from Hinata's cheek. "Come on, let's get you home." Later that evening, as Naruto finished his work, he and Ino left the precinct together. Ino instinctively wrapped her arm around Naruto's, her fingers gripping his sleeve tightly. Naruto noticed the tension in her hold and glanced at her, concerned. "You okay, Ino-chan?" he asked softly. Ino gave him a small smile, but her grip didn't loosen. "I'm fine. You know how I get in public." Her voice was quiet, tinged with anxiety. Naruto nodded, fully aware of Ino's struggles with social anxiety. When she was a child, her father had been strict and overbearing, causing her to develop a fear of crowds and judgment. Over time, she had learned to cope, but the scars still remained. Naruto smiled warmly and gently patted her hand. "Don't worry, I'm here. Let's take it slow." They walked together down the busy street, the noise of the city surrounding them. Despite the bustle of people, Naruto kept Ino close, his presence a shield against her anxiety. As they passed by a small ice cream stand, Naruto grinned. "Hey, want some ice cream?" he asked, his eyes lighting up with childlike excitement. Ino hesitated for a moment, but then nodded, her smile growing a little wider. "Okay, that sounds nice." Naruto ordered 2 cones, handing one to Ino as they continued their walk. She licked at the ice cream carefully, enjoying the simple sweetness. Naruto watched her with a smile, loving how the little things seemed to make her happy. As they walked, Naruto suddenly asked, "So, what do you think? Do you want a big wedding or a small one?" Ino blushed deeply, not expecting the question. She paused, considering it. I think I'd like something simple. I don't really like crowds, you know that." Naruto nodded, understanding completely. "Yeah, I figured. But you know, I could make it big if you want it. Don't worry about the cost or anything. I want you to have whatever makes you happiest." Ino shook her head quickly. "No, Naruto-kun, I don't want anything big. I hate crowds and noise. I'd rather it just be us, our closest friends, and you." Naruto stopped walking for a moment, turning to face her. His eyes softened as he looked at her, seeing the vulnerability she tried so hard to hide. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a gentle hug. "All right, Ino-chan," he whispered. "A small wedding it is. Just you and me. That's all I need." Ino felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. For once, she felt completely understood, safe in Naruto's embrace. She hugged him back, resting her head against his chest. After a moment, Naruto pulled back slightly, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small key and handed it to her. Ino blinked in surprise, staring at the key in her palm. "What's this?" Naruto grinned sheepishly. "It's the key to our new place. I bought us a house, Ino-chan. It's a little big, but I figured we could make it our own." Ino's breath hitched, her heart swelling with emotion. She didn't know what to say. She had never imagined she could feel this happy, this loved. Without thinking, she threw her arms around Naruto, holding him tightly. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Naruto hugged her back just as tightly, his chin resting on top of her head. "You'll never have to find out," he murmured, his voice soft and filled with warmth. Ino pressed herself against him, not realizing how close they were until she felt her chest against his. Her cheeks flushed as she realized how their embrace might look to the people passing by on the street. She pulled back quickly, her face bright red. Naruto, equally flustered, rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Maybe we should get going, huh?" Ino nodded, still blushing furiously. They both glanced around, noticing a few passers-by giving them amused looks. Embarrassed, they quickly started walking again, their pace a little faster than before. As they hurried down the street, Ino glanced at Naruto, her heart full. Despite the embarrassment and her lingering social anxiety, being with him made everything feel easier, lighter. She knew, without a doubt, that she had found her home with him. And in that moment, as they walked together, she realized that nothing else mattered. Not the opinions of others, not the painful memories of her past. All that mattered was the man beside her, the man she would soon call her husband. Naruto and Ino hopped into his car, driving to their new home. Ino was nervous but excited. When they arrived, Naruto showed her the house, which was even more stunning than she imagined. The highlight? A beautiful garden filled with flowers, her favorite. Ino shyly wandered through the garden, playing with the petals and naming each type of flower. It felt unreal that this was her new life after so much pain. She couldn't help but thank Naruto, and they shared a kiss, their bond growing even stronger. As Naruto drove, Ino sat in the passenger seat, her fingers lightly grazing the engagement ring on her finger. She was still getting used to it, the idea that she was now engaged to Naruto, the man who had done so much for her. She glanced over at him, his usual cheerful grin on his face as he navigated through the streets. Her heart swelled with a mixture of happiness and disbelief. This was her life now, her future with Naruto. The same Naruto who had found her at her lowest, crying in the cemetery after her father had cruelly thrown her out, blaming her for her mother's death. She had felt so lost, so broken. But then, there was Naruto, standing by her side when no one else would, protecting her when her father had nearly sold her off to a life of misery. And now, here they were, on their way to the new house he had bought for them. She didn't know how she could ever repay him for everything he had done, but she would try, with all her heart. The car slowed as they turned onto a quiet, tree-lined street. Ino's eyes widened as they approached a large, beautiful house at the end of the block. It was more than she could have ever imagined. The house was 2 stories, with a wide front porch and large windows that let in the sunlight. But what caught her eye the most was the garden. An expansive space filled with blooming flowers of every kind. Naruto parked the car and turned to her with an excited grin. "Well, what do you think, Ino-chan? This is it, our new home." Ino stared at the house in awe, her hand covering her mouth in disbelief. She stepped out of the car, her legs feeling a little shaky as she took in the sight of the garden. The vibrant colors of the flowers, roses, lilies, sunflowers, everything she loved, right there in front of her. You did all this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Well, I know how much you love flowers, so I thought this would be perfect for you. I had a gardener help me with some of it, but yeah, I wanted to make sure it was just right." Ino's heart felt like it might burst. She walked over to the garden, crouching down to touch the petals of a delicate rose. Her fingers trembled slightly as she moved from flower to flower, recognizing each species with ease. She had spent years learning about flowers, working in her family's flower shop, and now she had a garden of her own. It was like a dream. Naruto stood a few steps behind her, watching with a soft smile as she explored the garden. He loved seeing her like this, happy, at peace. He knew how hard things had been for her, the pain she had carried for so long. But now, he wanted to give her the life she deserved. A life filled with love, security, and happiness. Ino looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I can't believe this is real," she whispered. That this is my life now. I never thought I'd have something like this." Naruto walked over to her, crouching down beside her as she continued to gently touch the flowers. "You deserve all of this, Ino-chan, and more. I promised you that I'd take care of you, and I'm not going back on that." Ino turned to face him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had been through so much, cast out by her father, blamed for things that weren't her fault, nearly sold to a life of misery. And yet, here she was, with a man who loved her more than anything in the world. A man who had saved her, not just from the darkness around her, but from the darkness within herself. "I don't know how to thank you for all of this," she said, her voice trembling. "You've done so much for me, Naruto. More than I ever thought anyone would." Naruto smiled, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You don't have to thank me, Ino. I love you. That's all there is to it." Ino felt the tears spill over then, unable to hold them back any longer. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead against Naruto's, her hand resting on his cheek. "I love you too," she whispered, her voice breaking. Naruto cupped her face in his hands, wiping away the tears with his thumbs. "Then that's all that matters." They sat there for a moment, just holding each other in the garden, surrounded by the flowers that Ino loved so much. The world around them seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them and the warmth of their love. After a while, Naruto stood up, offering her his hand. "Come on, I want to show you the inside." Ino nodded, taking his hand as he led her toward the house. They walked through the front door, and Ino's breath caught in her throat. The inside of the house was just as beautiful as the outside, spacious, with large windows that let in natural light, and decorated in a way that felt both cozy and elegant. There was a large living room with a fireplace, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, and upstairs, a master bedroom that had a balcony overlooking the garden. "This is amazing," Ino whispered, her eyes wide as she took it all in. Naruto grinned, clearly pleased with her reaction. "I wanted to make sure it was perfect for you. For us." Ino walked over to the window, looking out at the garden below. She couldn't believe that this was her life now, that she had gone from feeling so lost and alone to having a home, a future, with someone who loved her unconditionally. She turned back to Naruto, her heart full. "I can't believe how lucky I am," she said softly. "You've given me everything I never thought I'd have." Naruto walked over to her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You're not lucky, Ino-chan. You're just finally getting what you deserve." Ino leaned back against him, feeling the warmth of his embrace. She closed her eyes, letting the peace of the moment wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly happy, truly safe. Naruto tightened his hold on her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You're my everything, Ino-chan. I'll always protect you, no matter what." Ino turned in his arms, looking up at him with tears in her eyes. But this time, they were tears of happiness, not sadness. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Naruto." Naruto smiled softly, leaning down to kiss her gently on the lips. "You'll never have to find out." The kiss deepened, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. Ino's hands found their way to Naruto's chest, her fingers curling into his shirt as she pressed herself against him. She could feel the warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart, and it grounded her in a way that nothing else ever had. As they pulled away, their foreheads resting together, Ino felt a sense of peace settle over her. This was where she belonged. Here, with Naruto, in this beautiful home they would build together. Naruto smiled down at her, his eyes filled with love and warmth. "Welcome home, Ino-chan." Ino smiled back, her heart overflowing with love for the man standing in front of her. "I'm home." And for the first time in her life, she truly felt it. Hinata sat in her room, staring at the ceiling, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She had locked herself in here for hours, unwilling to face the world, or more importantly, to face herself. Her mind replayed the moment when she saw Ino and Naruto together in his car. The way Naruto smiled at Ino, the way he looked at her, it hurt. She had always known that Naruto was with Ino, but somehow seeing them together, so happy and so in love, made the pain more real. A soft knock came from the door, breaking her out of her spiraling thoughts. "Hinata?" It was Hanabi's voice, gentle but firm, her younger sister's usual demeanor. Hinata didn't respond. She couldn't. Her throat felt tight, and the tears threatened to spill again. Hanabi knocked once more, this time with more insistence. "Hinata, open the door. I know you're upset, but you can't stay locked in there forever." After a long pause, Hinata slowly got up and unlocked the door. Hanabi entered, her expression softening when she saw the state her sister was in. Hinata looked like a ghost of herself, her usually vibrant eyes dull and tired, her skin pale, and her hair tangled from hours of lying in bed. "Hinata, you can't keep doing this to yourself," Hanabi said gently, sitting beside her on the bed. "I know you've been in love with Naruto for a long time, but you have to accept that things are different now." Hinata's lips trembled. "I know, but it's just so hard. I've loved him for as long as I can remember. Ever since we were in school together. He was always so kind, so strong. I admired him for so long. And now, he's with Ino. I feel like I've lost something I never even had." Hanabi sighed, placing a hand on her sister's shoulder. "Hinata, I get it. I really do. But you can't let this consume you. Naruto is a great guy, but he's not the only guy in the world. You're an amazing person. You're kind, beautiful, and strong in your own way. You'll find someone who loves you for who you are. It doesn't have to be Naruto." Hinata shook her head, her eyes filling with tears again. "But I don't want someone else. I want Naruto. I just can't imagine being with anyone else." Hanabi frowned slightly, but her voice remained calm. "I know it feels like that now, but in time, you'll see that life goes on. Naruto and Ino are happy together, and you deserve to find your own happiness too. You can't keep living in this pain." Hinata wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her heart heavy. "You're right, but it still hurts so much." Hanabi hugged her gently. "I know, but you'll get through this, Hinata. I promise." Later that evening, Hinata decided to take a walk. She needed fresh air, something to clear her mind. As she wandered through the quiet streets of the village, her thoughts kept drifting back to Naruto. How could she move on when her heart was still so full of him? Lost in her thoughts, Hinata almost didn't notice the car parked on the side of the road. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw them. Naruto and Ino sitting inside, talking and laughing together. Hinata's heart clenched painfully in her chest, and she quickly turned away, hoping they hadn't seen her. But Ino had. From the passenger seat, Ino's eyes caught sight of Hinata walking by. She frowned slightly, sensing the tension in the air. "Naruto," she said quietly, nudging him. "I just saw Hinata." Naruto blinked in surprise. "Hinata? Where?" Ino pointed out the window. "She just walked by. Sakura told me about her feelings for you." Naruto's face fell slightly. He had known, of course. It had been clear for a long time, but hearing it out loud still made him feel uneasy. What should I do? Ino gave him a soft smile, reaching out to hold his hand. Go talk to her. She trusts you. Just be honest with her. Naruto nodded, grateful for Ino's understanding. He leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. Thanks, Ino-chan. I'll be right back. He stepped out of the car, leaving Ino behind. As he walked down the street, he spotted Hinata sitting on a park bench, her head bowed as she stared at the ground. Naruto approached her slowly, not wanting to startle her. Hinata, he called softly. Hinata looked up, her eyes widening in surprise. She hadn't expected to see Naruto. Not here, not now. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took in his appearance. His bright blue eyes, his blonde hair, and that ever-present, gentle smile. He looked even more handsome than usual, the moonlight casting a soft glow on his pale skin, almost making him look ethereal. She blushed deeply, her hands clenching in her lap. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Naruto sat down beside her, his expression serious but kind. Hinata, I know how you feel about me. Hinata's breath hitched in her throat, her heart racing. Why you know? She whispered, her face burning with embarrassment. She had never wanted him to find out like this. Naruto nodded slowly. Yeah, I've known for a while. Sakura told me too, but I've kind of sensed it for a long time. Hinata felt like she might faint. Her hands trembled, and she looked away, unable to meet his eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't mean to. I've loved you for so long, Naruto-kun. Ever since we were kids, I admired you. You were always so brave, so strong. I wanted to be like you. Naruto listened quietly as Hinata spoke, pouring out all the feelings she had kept inside for so many years. I watched you from afar, cheering for you in secret, hoping that one day you might notice me. Hinata continued, her voice shaking. But you never did. And now, you're with Ino. She's so beautiful, and she makes you happy. I could never compare. Naruto's heart ached as he listened to her. He hadn't realized how deeply Hinata's feelings for him ran. He had always seen her as a friend, someone kind and gentle, who had been by his side through so many challenges. But his heart had never been drawn to her in the way hers had been to him. Hinata, he said softly, reaching out to take her hand. I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. You're an amazing person, kind, strong, and beautiful in your own way. But I love Ino. She's the one I want to be with. Hinata's heart shattered at his words, but she knew they were true. She had known all along that this was the reality she would have to face, but hearing it from Naruto himself made the pain so much more real. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and before she could stop herself, she leaned forward, burying her face in Naruto's chest. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun. I couldn't help it. Naruto wrapped his arms around her, holding her gently as she cried. It's okay, Hinata. You don't have to apologize. You have a big heart, and there's someone out there who's going to love you for exactly who you are. Hinata sniffled, pulling back slightly to look up at him, her eyes still filled with tears. Do you really think so? Naruto smiled softly, brushing a tear from her cheek. Yeah, I do. You deserve someone who sees how special you are. And I know that person is out there, waiting for you. Hinata blushed, her heart still aching but feeling a small glimmer of hope. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I'll try to move on. I'll try to be happy. Naruto nodded. You'll be okay, Hinata. I know you will. They sat together in silence for a moment, the weight of the unspoken words between them finally settling. Hinata knew that it was time to let go of her love for Naruto, but she also knew that it would take time. But with Naruto's kind words, she felt a little stronger. Like maybe, just maybe, she could find happiness someday. As they parted ways, Hinata looked back at Naruto, a bittersweet smile on her face. Take care of Ino. She's really lucky to have you. Naruto grinned. I will. And you take care of yourself, Hinata. You deserve to be happy. Naruto returned to the car, where Ino was waiting patiently. He climbed into the driver's seat and looked over at her with a small smile. Did you fix things with Hinata? Ino asked, her voice laced with a hint of jealousy. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I think so. Naruto climbed back into the car, a gentle smile on his face. Ino glanced at him, her expression curious and slightly jealous. "Did you fix things with Hinata?" she asked. Naruto nodded, chuckling. "Yeah, I think so. She needed to let her feelings out, but it's all good now." Ino raised an eyebrow, teasing. "Did you kiss her?" Naruto shook his head, smiling playfully. "No, I just hugged her, that's all." Satisfied, Ino smiled, but Naruto leaned over, kissing her hand. "You're the only one for me, Ino-chan." Ino blushed deeply, her heart fluttering at his words. "I love you, Naruto-kun," she whispered, holding his hand tightly. "I love you too, my queen," Naruto replied, his voice full of affection. They shared a kiss, but as they did, they noticed people passing by, staring and even snapping pictures. Both of them blushed, embarrassed by the attention, and Naruto quickly started the car, driving away from the scene. Hinata walked slowly back to her home, her heart still heavy from the conversation with Naruto, but a small flicker of hope had started to grow inside her. She knew it would take time, but maybe, just maybe, she could begin to heal. As she approached the front door of her family's house, she was surprised to see Niji standing there, waiting for her. Niji, ever composed and stoic, looked away when he noticed her approaching, but Hinata could see a slight flush on his cheeks. It was unusual to see her cousin flustered, and for a moment, it distracted her from her own turmoil. "Niji and I-san," she greeted softly, bowing her head slightly in respect. Niji cleared his throat, avoiding her gaze. "Hinata," he responded, his voice unusually hesitant. He paused for a moment, as if gathering his courage. "Would you like to go out with me tonight?" Hinata blinked, taken aback by the question. Niji wasn't usually one to ask her to do things like this, at least not outside of family gatherings. She remembered Naruto's words from earlier, how he had told her she would find someone who loved her. Was this Niji's way of showing that he cared? A blush crept across her cheeks, but she nodded shyly. I'd like that, Niji and I-san." Later that evening, Niji picked her up for their outing. He had chosen a restaurant that was both elegant and cozy, a quiet place where they could talk without the noise of the outside world. As they sat down to eat, the silence between them felt thick with unspoken words. Both of them were nervous, though neither would admit it. Hinata played with her napkin, her fingers twisting the fabric as she tried to think of something to say. Niji, usually so composed, seemed equally at a loss for words. They exchanged glances, blushing slightly when their eyes met, before quickly looking away again. After a few awkward moments, Niji finally broke the silence. "I wanted to ask you out tonight because I've been thinking about you a lot lately, Hinata." Hinata's heart skipped a beat. "You have?" Niji nodded, looking down at his hands. "I know I'm not the most expressive person, but I care about you. More than you might realize." Hinata's blush deepened, her mind racing as she processed his words. Could it be that Niji had feelings for her? She had always admired him for his strength and wisdom, but she had never imagined that he might see her in the same way. I care about you too, Niji and I-san," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Niji smiled faintly, and the tension between them seemed to ease just a little. They continued their meal, both of them still a bit nervous, but slowly growing more comfortable in each other's company. The conversation began to flow more easily as they talked about their childhood memories, shared experiences, and their hopes for the future. After dinner, Niji suggested they go to the movies, and Hinata agreed. She wasn't sure if this was a date or just a friendly outing, but either way, she was happy to spend time with him. At the cinema, they chose a romantic movie. As the film played, Hinata couldn't help but notice the couple on screen sharing a passionate kiss. Her cheeks flushed red as she watched, and she nervously glanced over at Niji, who was sitting beside her. He seemed to be just as flustered, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a slight awkwardness. Hinata felt her heart race. She had never seen Niji like this before, so vulnerable, so unsure, and it made her feel something she hadn't expected: hope. Maybe Naruto was right. Maybe she could find happiness with someone else. Maybe that someone was Niji. When the movie ended, they walked out of the theater in silence, both of them clearly lost in their own thoughts. Hinata felt a mixture of emotions: nervousness, excitement, and a strange sense of peace. She wasn't sure what this night had meant, but she knew that it had changed something between them. As they reached the front door of her home, Niji stopped and turned to face her. "Hinata," he began, his voice soft but steady. "I know this is sudden, but I want you to know that I care about you deeply. I've always admired your kindness, your strength, and I want to be there for you, in whatever way you need." Hinata felt her heart swell at his words. She looked up at him, her cheeks burning with a deep blush. Before she could think about what she was doing, she leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to Niji's lips. Niji's eyes widened in shock, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he blushed deeply, standing frozen as Hinata kissed him. When she pulled back, both of them were bright red, their hearts racing. "I'm sorry," Hinata whispered, embarrassed by her boldness. I don't know why I did that." Niji stared at her for a moment, his face still flushed, but then a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. "It's okay, Hinata. I'm glad you did." Hinata smiled shyly, her heart feeling lighter than it had in a long time. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she might be able to move on from her feelings for Naruto. As she walked inside, Niji watched her go, his own heart racing. Once the door closed behind her, he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He stood there for a moment, replaying the night in his mind, before turning to walk home. As he walked, his thoughts drifted to Naruto. A small smile crossed his face as he remembered their conversation a few days earlier. Flashback. A conversation with Naruto. Niji and Naruto had been sparring in the training field when Naruto suddenly paused, leaning on his knees to catch his breath. "Hey, Niji," Naruto said, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I know it's none of my business, but you ever thought about Hinata? I mean, really thought about her?" Niji had blinked in surprise, not sure where Naruto was going with this. "What do you mean?" Naruto had grinned, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I mean, she's shy, but she's a great girl. And well, I think you'd be good for her. You should make the first move." Niji had frowned, unsure. "Hinata is shy. She would never." "That's exactly why you need to make the first move," Naruto interrupted, clapping him on the back. "She's never gonna do it herself, man. If you wait around, you'll be old and gray before anything happens." Niji had considered Naruto's words, a small seed of doubt forming in his mind. Could he really be the one to make that first move? He had never thought of himself as someone who could be that bold. But maybe Naruto was right. Back to the present. As Niji walked home, he smiled to himself, silently thanking Naruto for giving him that push. If it hadn't been for his friend's advice, he might never have had the courage to ask Hinata out. He wished Naruto and Ino all the happiness in the world, and as he walked, he felt a sense of contentment settle over him. Maybe, just maybe, things would work out after all. Back in town, Naruto sneezed suddenly, rubbing his nose with a puzzled expression. Ino, sitting beside him in the car, looked at him with amusement. "Bless you," she said with a smile. "What was that about?" Naruto grinned sheepishly. "I don't know. Maybe someone's talking about me." Ino giggled, leaning over to kiss his cheek. "Well, whoever it is, I hope they're saying good things." Naruto laughed, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I'm sure they are." He pulled Ino close, pressing a soft kiss to her lips before resting his forehead against hers. "You're the only one for me, Ino-chan. My queen." Ino blushed deeply, her heart fluttering in her chest. "I love you, Naruto-kun." "I love you too, Ino-chan," Naruto replied, kissing her hand gently. They shared a tender moment, lost in each other's gaze. But as they did, they noticed a group of people walking by, staring at them curiously. A few of them even took out their phones, snapping pictures of the couple. Naruto and Ino both blushed furiously, quickly pulling away from each other as they realized they had been caught in a public display of affection. Without a word, Naruto started the car and drove off, both of them laughing as they sped down the street.